Hello, Carrie here from Homestead How and the Carnivore Diet movie, and I have a special guest here, Lee from Kent Carnivore. We spoke the other day during our 24-hour live stream, and honestly, Lee, I really enjoyed our conversation. I think we had like 50 guests on, and you were on later, and it was
Yeah.
one of our favorite conversations. The only thing that was bad about it was it ended too quickly. We had so many guests, we ran out of time. So, welcome to the show, Lee. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah,
Yeah,
really good. I've
absolutely.
got steak sitting out there on the countertop, so when we're done, I'll think about making that. So
Nice. So, could you start maybe telling us a little bit about yourself and your carnivore story?
yeah, my health started to plummet in 2012 somewhat when I was diagnosed with my first ailment, I guess you could say. I had IBD, so I had some nasty symptoms which I actually ignored for the first couple of flare-ups because they just went after a week or maybe 2 weeks at a time. Basically, I was going to the toilet and there was some blood. And as like so many men, we don't just go straight to the doctor. We kind of let it go for a little bit. But it was 2012 when I turned up to the doctors and he basically diagnosed me with IBD because they ran some tests and things like that. They took me over to the hospital and they put a camera and, they basically saw some ulcers and things like that. But it was very mild, very low end. It was actually classed more like proctitis at first initially. I managed to go without medication for 2 years, and I would flare maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and it would be a couple of weeks at a time, reasonably mild. But in 2014, it was noticeably worse, and basically went back to the doctor, and that's when they put me on my medication for the first time, which was oral, and that basically lowered the bowel frequencies over the course of the flare up, and it actually even put me in remission a few days earlier than the norm. So I did have some relief at first, but that was just really addressing and suppressing the symptoms. So little did I know it was just continuing to spread slowly but surely throughout my colon. And it wasn't until 2017 when I flared up. It was probably like 10, 11 flare-ups total. And on that final flare-up, it was just so extreme. It was probably 5 times worse than I'd known previously. And it was just relentless, honestly. When you're going into a flare-up because you just feel it. There's like an unsettled feeling in your gut. And then you think, all right, okay, here we go. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month of bad symptoms, in which case you don't feel like you're as independent. You feel like you want to stay at home just in case. But yeah, no, it was really bad. I was going 30 times a day, whereas in the beginning I was going like maybe 5, 6 times. It progressed to 10, 12. And my worst flare up before that time, I think I hit like 14 or 15 times going to the toilet where there was a reasonable amount of blood and mucus and things like that. But this time, yeah, 30 times a day. And I was having to keep going up and down the stairs to go to the toilet because at the time we didn't have a toilet downstairs. And so, yeah, it was just exhausting. And I was obviously depleting a lot of electrolytes. I felt like something was really bad. Something around the corner I was in serious trouble. And just felt weak, felt poisoned. Like, why is this not going away? Why, it's just relentless. And I ended up getting on the phone to my nan because my parents were away in the States. And so they didn't know what I was going through. And my nan was the only one that was driving at the time that I could get in touch with. And so I said, I don't think I can do another day. She came around first thing in the morning and she took me up to the hospital. And they basically put me straight away on intravenous drip to rehydrate me because I was like, dangerously low on electrolytes. And that same evening, they did some scans and things. They kept me in because they could see I was, pretty helpless. And yeah, they ran some other tests the next day, and they put the camera back up in the back end, and they could see, how pervasive this really was. They were surprised. I think the last time they saw me, it was very mild and low end, where this time you could even tell by the way they were talking between them that they didn't think it was as serious as what I was making out or something like that. But I didn't take the anesthetic, so I could see everything that was going on. And they were kind of fishing around, and they've just kept going and kept going. They were like, wow, your whole colon is riddled. I don't think you've got a good chance of getting out of the hospital with your colon, basically. They put me on steroids, which is what they often do just to get you out of trouble while they manage with other drugs and things like that. And their last resort was to trial me on an immune suppressant, which is really dangerous. I think this one was very, very potent. So I think they actually had like a cap of 4 days that they wanted to keep me on this drug. I don't know whether it was because I was already run down. And you're also being taken from room to room in the hospital, and you're going through the corridors with a lot of sick people. So yeah, they kept me on it for 4 days. And then the very next day they just came in, the main doctor who did my surgery and a few nurses, and just said, hate to break it to you, but tomorrow we've got to take your colon out. You're not going anywhere, basically. And what was happening is that I'd stripped away a lot of layers of my gut and my colon. And as I was going to the toilet, I was kind of like shedding colon. It was terrible, really. But that was my situation. So it was on its way to perforation. And before that happened, it was an emergency surgery situation to avoid that. And so that's what happened. The next day, had a shower, put on a gown and the socks, and they took me down, gave me an epidural. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up on my back. They said it all went well. Just a hazy experience, really, towards the end. And obviously the pain came on strong as minutes passed. And they just kept coming around and giving me like painkillers and stuff like that, managing my situation until I was able to independently manage the ostomy bag. So the situation was, my reality is that I don't have my colon anymore. I need to go to the toilet into a bag. So I had ileostomy surgery, 0 colon left, and my ileum just protrudes from my abdominal wall. It goes into what they call an ostomy bag. And then at first, obviously I hadn't eaten anything. So they were curious, they're always curious to see if it works in a healthy way, I guess. So there was quite some time passed. I think it was maybe about 10 days before I ate food. And the first thing I had was butter on toast. And it never enjoyed butter so much in my life. But yeah, they gave me this butter and toast, and obviously just checked to see if it worked. Everything was good. And then when I was independent to stand up, wash, change, they introduced me to a company where I have to order these bags, because obviously I need these monthly, so I get a monthly delivery of these things. They were happy to send me home and leave me to my own resources, basically. But that's when my depression came. I mean, I've always suffered with anxiety, and I've always been very neurotic. Interestingly, I took Jordan Peterson's personality test. And honestly, I didn't cheat this test. I didn't know what, I just answered the questions honestly, and I capped at 100% neuroticism. And so for a man, that's really quite strange. It's really hard to deal with, debilitating really at times. But the depression that hit me with, the bag that was associated with my surgery outcome, and my outlook and how that changed, it was just deep, very, very deep. And it would come and go in waves, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. I'm a window cleaner, so I have a reasonably physical job. I ended up going back to work and pouring myself into work. That's how I kind of dealt with things. Didn't have much of a social life at the time. Just people that I worked around, that was it. I saw people at work, and that was it, really. I came home, and I was living back at home with my parents at the time as well. And just pour myself into work. And it wasn't until like a couple of years passed that I met my partner, who I'm with now, Lucy, and her child. We've got our own house. And things were looking up, at least in those moments. It kind of made me feel better about the situation, because somebody's accepting you for who you are. It made me at least temporarily accept my situation more, because I suppose I'm seeing myself with someone else's eyes somewhat, if that makes sense. You start to feel a little bit better about yourself and your life, and it gives you a bit more confidence, And so I felt pretty good. We got this house and settled into routine, but it just came back to haunt me, and it would come and go in mild waves. And then it just felt like the longest stint of depression I've ever had. And it was just so deep and dark, and I was just looking for help. And at the time, I didn't really know too much about all the drugs that they give you, and these psychotic drugs and antidepressant and anti-anxiety drugs. But I got on the phone, made a doctor's appointment. They then passed me on to this unit which specialise in mental health. And we ended up having a 45-minute conversation, very detailed, considering I don't know these people on the other end of the phone, the things that we were talking about, it's crazy. And actually that gave me some relief. I felt a little bit better at first and thinking, well, it's not long now. You don't have to suffer for too long. There's some kind of help coming. And it wasn't until a week or so passed, I'm thinking, like, this is strange. I feel like that I should have had a call, because they were going to send me a call from another person. They were refining everything that we had previously talked about to figure out how they're going to treat me. So it was going to be like therapy, and then potentially during therapy they'd figure out maybe a dosage of medicine, and they didn't call for, it was 2 months had gone by. I knew I was pretty much at that point on my own with things, and I was sitting on the couch and I saw on YouTube, it was called Don't Eat This, Michaela Peterson, on the Low Carb Down Under channel, which is a great channel. I've learned so much watching the seminars and things on that channel. And she was talking about her all meat diet that cured her depression and her arthritis and all basically autoimmune reactions to foods, whether it's something that she ate or something that she came in proximity to. It seems as though she went on mostly lamb, I think, in the beginning, and it just cured all of her ailments. And so that to me was so shocking. I couldn't believe that could work. I didn't understand why that would work at first. Red meat's been villainized since the 80s. High fat, saturated fat, things like that. Carbs are supposed to be healthy, certainly the complex carbohydrates. And so I couldn't really figure it out first, but I just thought, well, I don't really need to know why. I've just heard that it's worked for someone. I'm willing to do this. And as far as I knew, I was on my own. And so I thought, I'm just going to express this to Lucy. I said to Luce, I want to do this diet. We watched the video together, and she was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And so we went to the store that evening. I didn't even want to wait. We had some food that we just ended up throwing away. And we both jumped in, and that's the part that in what we were talking about, that I would recommend, is just going cold turkey. But I was desperate, so I kind of justified it. She struggled a little bit because she's never eaten as much animal fats and red meat as I have. Not that I was ever eating really fatty cuts. But yeah, we jumped straight in the next day with the BBB challenge. So lots of bacon and eggs, butter, and I also got a lot of minced ground beef in the beginning, which is something I don't have as much of now. But yeah, that was the first 30 days that we were going to approach this challenge, the 30-day challenge. And the first day my acid reflux went. The first week had gone by, and though I was struggling a little bit with the adaptation stage, I was feeling a little bit lower in energy, and I was craving a hell of a lot, like just things that I hadn't even thought about for so long, because I just cut it out overnight. For some reason, I wanted to eat like muffins and donuts and licorice for some reason. I don't know why that was, but that's just this crazy stuff I was craving. But 1 week went by and all my skin started to improve. It was like 50% better. And then 3 weeks went by, and at that point, everything just fell into place. And so my energy arrived. I was at work. I didn't eat breakfast that day because I still felt good from the day before. I went to work and I worked the morning. It was a beautiful day. And so I have a physical job. And so you'd think like, you wouldn't feel so good on an empty stomach that day. But I pulled over and I couldn't believe how good I felt. I just recorded my testimony, basically saying like, I have this crazy amount of energy. I'm smiling. I remember even then that I wasn't sweating or struggling with the heat. And, previously when I worked, I would sweat, certainly if I wore a hat, you take your hat off and it's like, oh, wow, you got all these drips of sweat, and I would struggle a little bit more. But it was like I was light and I was cool and dry and just smiling and happy. And I had this energy about me, and I couldn't help but just express it. So I just recorded my testimony in my van. And at the time, I didn't even have a YouTube account. So I just put it on my Facebook, and I actually got a decent response. Certainly the first lot of stuff that I was posting about this journey. And people were really happy for me. And after that, I thought, let's hope this continues. And as it did, I thought I'm going to set up a YouTube account, because what was happening is I kept posting things about how I felt and how incredible this is, and almost trying to I just want someone else to share this with me, because over here in my area, nobody eats like this. I don't know anyone else that eats like this. And Lucy was only on board for a month, and now she's like ketogenic. And she managed to reduce her blood glucose to a healthy range for the first time since having Sky. That was at 13 years. At that point, she'd had Sky. And she'd lost 45 pounds in 4.5 months, doing absolutely no exercise whatsoever. And she was eating far more. If you were to count the calories, she was eating maybe double the amount of food, yet she lost 4.5 stone in 45 pounds in 4.5 months. So, straight away it's like, wait, what about calories? The calories in, calories out. That's when it's like none of this makes sense. So obviously we've been lied to, or they're not right about some things, So yeah, I mean, I started this journey to do a 30-day challenge and just hope for the best. And it's been 13.5 months, and there's no way I'm considering any carbohydrates anytime soon. I feel too damn good. Life is great. Life is awesome. Even on a bad day, I feel 10 times better than I ever did on a good day in my previous life. And Lucy's seen the difference. Lucy's grateful because she has to live with me. And my family are obviously really happy. But yeah, that's why I set up my YouTube, basically, because nobody was responding after a while. I think people were getting maybe fed up because they don't get it. It's kind of like, maybe I came across, maybe like vegans come across, like just, I try not to be pushy, but I just couldn't help it. I kept calling these things and like sharing information that I was learning that was blowing my mind about, the lies pertaining to, really, it was Ansel Keys and his villainizing saturated fats and cholesterol and all the animal products, and saying, sugar's all right, it's just the fat that you need to worry about, and all this stuff. So you go down more and more rabbit holes. And so I was sharing information about everything. And so that's why I set up my YouTube account, and then I gained a bit of traction, and I feel like it was worth doing what I was doing and sharing everything that I've learned and my experience, because I was impacting them in a positive way. People that want to actually to hear this and to go down the rabbit holes and ask questions like they were watching the videos. And yeah, I just gained more of a following, and I feel like I've helped a lot of people just through setting up YouTube. And so I ended up deleting my social media, in fact, because I thought it wasn't doing me any favors with my mental health. I wanted to stay clean, and I just focused on that. So I just stayed true to the diet and started making content. So that's sort of given me purpose, more meaning. I wake up and I naturally feel better anyway. This way of life, just living it on its own is great enough. But to have this platform where I can see other people transform and just kind of have to do with this whole community that are all on the same journey, that's been a great thing. So,
wow, what a story. On the IBD, what causes it? Do they know, like, what's the reason? Why do people get that?
So, I mean, all I would say is that people with IBD can't really afford to have fiber, like certainly other things as well, like alcohol. Alcohol destroys your gut lining. Fiber doesn't break down. So if you've got weakness there in your colon, your ileum, small intestine, somewhere in your digestive tract, you want to have these non-inflammatory foods that have been completely broken down in your stomach acid. So if you think about plants, there's a lot of things in plants that don't break down in your stomach acid. Even things like gluten, which is a plant protein. It's not like animal protein. So really what's happening is they're calling it an autoimmune disease. And obviously the immune system is attacking healthy tissue in your body. And so it's a bit of a phenomenon, like nobody really understands quite why this theory. Some people think we don't have an immune system, and I agree that we are a repair and maintenance system, constantly, all the time we're alive. We just repair, maintain as we live through the day and as we sleep. Because we're just regenerating new cells. The body's got to recycle, and you're never really like just balanced. You know what I mean? Just to move forward, you've got to like be off balance and walk into it. And so you're just repairing and maintaining the whole time you're alive. And so, I mean, there's theories about the fact that there are threats in the body, and your body's trying to repair and maintain, but these things are confusing to the body, and so it ends up attacking the tissue, or that the body is trying to take out these threats, like the immune system is accidentally attacking the tissues. It would be like if you fell over, you'd have like some inflammation, say on your knee, well, that's good, you know, because the inflammation's there to reduce problems. Like it's a healing process, right? It's like a default setting so that your body can then go and repair and then maintain. But I think that obviously if it's prolonged for too long and it's like this chronic systemic inflammation, after a while, that inflammation is now causing a problem. It's difficult. I don't know. I don't think they really truly know. But all I do know is that if you have IBD or IBS, even diverticulitis, if you just go on a zero fiber diet, you'll go in remission almost instantly. You get yourself out of trouble. You can even come off medications and certainly avoid having a surgery like what I had. There's no reason why. So if you went to the doctor with IBD, they should certainly be asking you, what do you eat? What do you drink on a typical day? If they said, oh, I have 2 or 3 beers or a glass of wine every day at the end of my day, I eat whole grains in the morning, and then I have, nuts and seeds and spicy foods, they should be like, you don't want any of that. Like, you can't afford to have that. The nuts, the seeds will not break down. Even if you chew them up, they're sharp. That material is sharp. The cellulose in, whatever plant really, celery, cabbage, carrots, that cellulose in those, even whole grains, it doesn't break down. Your stomach acid doesn't liberate these substrates, and so then it ends up in your colon and it just inflames it. And then you've got other things like seed oils, which cause permeability, things like gluten that don't break down, they also cause permeability, leaky gut, things like that. That's just the worst thing in the world that you want. If you have IBD, Crohn's and colitis, you don't want to be consuming alcohol, seed oils, fiber. And so really you think that's just basically plants, because plants are high in fiber. Plants have these plant proteins, they have lectins. And then when you take the oil out of the seed of the plant, they go through the gut unchanged, the molecules. So they're really egregious on your systems and they inflame you and they cause you to have flare-ups. And so obviously, I think the immune system is trying to heal you, but if you keep doing this all the time, you end up having this tissue just being eaten away by your own body, because it's kind of like getting in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway. But yeah,
I've heard
plant materials.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I've heard lots of testimonials or stories from people with stomach issues, IBS, Crohn's, colitis, that seem to have reversed with carnivore, or kind of what you're saying, getting rid of the plants and things like that.
Yeah.
Is this something you feel like if you found carnivore before that it would have saved your colon?
Yeah. It's kind of ironic if you think that the diet that caused me to lose my colon, I ended up having depression, and the depression led me to the diet that would have saved me in the beginning from having to lose my colon, which caused the depression. So it's kind of, it came too late, but at the same time, I'm still alive, so it's not too late. So it's a funny situation. But where I was putting out certain content and things like that, addressing these things, IBD, that's when I realized, with an influx of messages that I was getting from people saying, oh man, it sucks that you found it so late, because I don't get flare-ups anymore, or I don't even take medication. These people will get away with going through life without surgery. I mean, almost guaranteed. Like, if you have permeability in the gut and you just eat only ruminant animals, you actually heal your gut. It fixes your gut back together, and you don't have any permeability. You won't have leaky gut. You certainly won't have any flare-ups with Crohn's and colitis, because you're eating fats and proteins which completely break down in the stomach acid. So by the time it goes through that part of the tract, it's just like it would just be like drinking water. There's supposed to be these liquefied fats and proteins going through your gut. That's what's supposed to be there. That this other plant material, certainly at high frequencies and high doses, they're not supposed to be there. So sure, we probably did eat some fibrous tubers, which is more starchy, really. If anything, they're not actually probably as fibrous as they are starchy. I think the isotopes show that we ate around 80% sort of fatty animal products, and we had some tubers and things like that, maybe some berries when they were available, which was for only 3 or 4 weeks out of the whole year. So if you think about that, it's like, well, I didn't eat berries for 11 months. I didn't eat all these other things that aren't available for 11 months. Most things are only temporarily there when they're in season. And out of whatever it is, 350,000 species of plants, we only eat about 50. So, and we've made them more edible. We've hybridized and engineered and modified these to be sweeter, larger, more colorful. This is a new thing, but for the people that have just been born into this world, they think it's normal. And I thought it was normal. Every day I was having 3 to 5 meals a day, and guaranteed there were carbs, guaranteed there were fiber, these cellulose fibers that don't break down on my plate. And I was imagine this, like my body, at least my physiology and my problems and weaknesses, it didn't want fiber, it didn't want these things. And yet I was giving it to my body multiple times a day. It never really had any rest. So it was just constantly getting inflamed. So no wonder my situation was so bad. I know other people get it more mild. They go into remission longer. They don't flare up so bad. Maybe it stays lower end and it doesn't spread as much. I don't know. Maybe those people have slightly better genetics, or maybe they don't eat as regularly, or maybe they cook their veg to death. I don't know, but there's certainly a pattern there. You can put yourself in remission almost instantly when you just go on a 0 fiber diet. So yeah, I wish I found it like 15 years ago. I probably would have been okay.
Right. I guess the silver lining though is now you undoubtedly know this could help so many people, and now you have your YouTube channel, and now, but it's got to be frustrating at the same time, because it's just it's so incredible what you had to go through losing your colon. I can't imagine that conversation, because it's basically like you're gonna have this bag on you for the rest of your life now.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
There's other people out there that are facing that right now, or are going to be facing it. And you're just like, I have the key right here. It's like,
I know, right. Yeah, absolutely. I speak to people at the door when I clean windows, and the amount of times when it comes up, everyone seems to know someone. So whether it's their daughter or their son-in-law or their cousin or their uncle, they almost all of the time, it's like, oh, my blah, blah, blah has Crohn's. Or, oh, my blah, blah, blah has colitis. It's like, yeah, I have the answer, not in like a narcissistic way. Like, oh, I know, it's like, oh, it's frustrating, because I just want to show them everything. I don't know. It's almost like you want to write the most perfect paragraph and make the most perfect video and just give it directly to them and go, look, here.
It's like the Matrix. You want to just inject the knowledge into them. It's like, here you go. Now you get it.
Yeah.
I see the same thing too, because people are like, I'm down 100 pounds since my heaviest. I was also diagnosed with Crohn's, but it was a misdiagnosis years ago. And I had IBS and stomach issues. But when people see me, they're like, oh, you lost so much weight. And my biggest thing I share with you, which I think is why your story is so touching to me too, is the depression, which for people that haven't had horrible clinical depression, they just don't understand it. They don't get it. I always encourage people. I don't blame them. They just can't understand it because they haven't been there. Just like they can't understand the benefits of carnivore without actually doing it. I always encourage those people, you got to be more sensitive. I remember when I had the worst depression in my life, people would say things like, oh, you just got to go for a walk. You just got to get some exercise. You can't even stand up. You can't even get out of bed. So the fact that you were able to overcome all of this and do it is just remarkable. But anyways, when I tell people this, like, oh, you lost all this weight, I'm like, I don't care about the weight. If I was literally 300 pounds heavier right now, I will take it in a second, in a blink of an eye, for everything else that has changed, mainly the depression and anxiety being gone, the sleep being improved, the mood being better. But anyways, I tell all these people too, I'm like, I don't have the inflammation anymore. I had arthritis so bad in my foot, I couldn't step down. My back hurt. I had brain fog, depression, anxiety. I couldn't sleep at night. And almost every person, just like you said, Lee, they say the same thing to me. Oh, that sounds like me. I have depression. I'm always anxious. I got back problems. I got this. And then it's so frustrating because it's like, yeah, and I know exactly why. It's because of the food you're eating. It's so simple.
It's like it's like they're waiting until desperation. And that's the thing. I think that's the thing, most carnivores, at least. I know there are a few that just, and I envy them so much, that they just adopt the diet anyway because they're convinced, and they were healthy anyway. I'm like, man, you're killing it. You're gonna just do so great. Like you're like Superman. But it's a funny thing. I mean, like all these people that have these problems, that's just what they can tell you as well. This is what I say to people: if you do the diet before you switch, and obviously transition slowly, write on a piece of paper everything you can think of mentally and physically which you suffer from, And
Yeah.
then 6 weeks later, get your list out and just tick them off. Because like
Right.
most things you can tick off in 6 weeks,
The other
unless
thing
it's
too
something.
is sorry, I was just gonna say, the other thing too is you're gonna find things that you had wrong with you that you didn't even realize
Yes,
were wrong with
exactly
you
that. Yeah.
because you walk through life for 20 years with them. The brain fog was mine. I didn't realize I
Right,
was like,
right.
"Oh, this is just my normal state because 'cause I've had it for so long." They always say that when you're in the fog, you can't see the fog. That is so true. When
Yeah,
you get out and get rid of that
100%.
brain fog, it's amazing. You just wanna shout
100%.
it from the rooftops.
Do you feel like you've I'm not being funny, but do you feel like you've got higher IQ? Do you feel like you're actually a bit smarter and you can articulate your words a bit better? I mean, forget the beginning
Lee,
of this. I was a little bit mumbling my words, but the information you can retain and stuff like that, I feel like I've become smarter. I
I
can
feel like Lee,
absorb
I
the
feel like
information.
you're like my twin or something with the things you're saying.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And it's unbelievable, and you start saying these things and most of the carnivores are not in their head, but the non-carnivores, like, these guys are just full of it.
yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like my brain is on another level, and it's not me trying to be egotistical or anything, it just is. Here's one example, I said this on my earlier 30-day video. My wife and I love watching Jeopardy. I've been watching it every day for years, and when carnivore started kicking in, I wanna go on Jeopardy. I am killing it, and I'm like, I'm answering these things, and I'm like, I don't even know how I know that. It's in some
yeah.
weird
That's
part of my
funny.
subconscious that I didn't know. I heard Joe Rogan say this too. He's just like, reading, I'm retaining things so much better. It's
Right.
like your brain is operating on a different level. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it's so true.
I'm
Yeah.
I just hit 6 months, so you're a lot further along. You're well over a year now, but it keeps Dr. Chafee told me around month 3. He's like, "It's gonna get better and better." And I was like, "Yeah, he's
Mhm.
just hyping this thing up." But it has gotten better and better, and if I look at, I don't know, like, what good success metrics would be, but, like, on my YouTube channel or my wife and I have several small businesses we run. Every
Right.
single one of them, there's, like, a correlation with carnivore in terms of
Wow.
the
Wow.
success
That's
metrics. It's just
amazing.
like I'm making wiser, smarter decisions, organizing my time better, and
You're
I have
thriving.
more energy too, so
You're truly thriving. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, just like you. Well, the biggest thing I wanna talk to you more about this too, but, not the depression.
Hmm.
That so I was on every SSRI antidepressant for years. I was suicidally depressed. I was
Mm,
completely hopeless, and I'm like, "There's no way out of this. There's just something defective with my brain." And so you've been there as well and were
yeah,
able
for sure.
to overcome it. I Do you feel like depression, anxiety, those sort of mental things, is it something that is it something that's, like, genetic and some people are just gonna get it and there's nothing you can do about it? Or, like, what do you feel? Is this just strictly nutrition? Is it just the food we're eating?
Right. So my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, certainly people that have gone carnivore, is that you're born with certain proclivities of weakness genetically, right? Whether it's epigenetically, like what your mum and dad had, what they were eating while you were in the womb, things like that. And so that's your foundation, but you don't need to trigger these weaknesses if you don't eat certain foods. So I believe that if I'd always eaten, say I weaned off of breast milk and then they teethed me on some chewed up steak and egg yolks and then I went on to eating proper steaks and eggs and butter and all this stuff and I never ate carbohydrates, I don't think I would ever have flared up and I don't think I ever would have experienced any anxiety or depression. Because what happens when you go carnivore, the biggest thing is that you go into ketosis, right? Like either a ketogenic diet. What happens is you switch your fuel source and so now you're feeding your brain with ketones, and the brain loves ketones. It's a really, really superior, cleaner energy for your brain. And you got to think that your brain is made out of the stuff that you're eating. You're eating the fats and cholesterol. Well, your brain is made out of fats and cholesterol. You're feeding it with these ketones. It's longer sustained energy. And so rather than going like this with your 3 or 5 meals of carbs a day and like this with the crashes, you're just going like this and then you sort of have a wave and it's, oh, I'm hungry, and then you go like that, and there you go, and you continue on with your life. And so to me, I think that yes, you have certain genetics, but you can trigger those negative parts of your genetics and your foundation with food or not. And so if you do suffer with anxiety, depression, brain fog, which, like you were saying, sometimes you don't even know you're struggling with brain fog. You might think you have ADHD. You might think you have like a low attention span, or that you're like less smart than someone, or oh, I'm not good at maths. Or you just imagine you fueled yourself with saturated fats and cholesterol and ketones throughout your life. I think I would have been taller. I mean, I probably would have had healthier skin where, you know, it's before I flared up. And I think my brain would have just been always happy. And so why would I have been depressed? And so I do think that diet has a hell of a lot to do with it. And of course, if you work shifts, say, and you sleep during the day and you wake up and go, that might not help. You might have a ketogenic diet and yet you're still not quite there. Well, you don't have circadian rhythm, so your hormones aren't functioning, and you may not be sleeping right, and that also correlates with depression. So I think really you just need to get back to what's natural and nature. You know, eat what we're supposed to eat, get up in the morning and go to bed when you're supposed to go to bed, like when it's dark outside, dim the lights, wear blue blocking glasses, ground your feet when you can, spend as much time out in the sun as you can. And this will just eradicate all of these problems that are basically unnecessary. And it seems that the doctors, you know, most doctors, they haven't got the answer for Crohn's and colitis. They haven't got the answer for depression. I've had both, and now I have what I feel like is the answer. You know, it's crazy. And yeah, so I think that absolutely you can solve all of these issues on diet, but maybe focus on your sleep, focus on your circadian rhythm, and move around, get outside. But the diet, huge difference for sure.
Yeah. I love what you said, the word natural. That's what's come full circle for me. If you think about carnivore, a lot of people think, oh, this is crazy. You're only eating meat. I really believe everything that I just started with just the meat. And now I'm doing all those other things you mentioned too. Getting sunlight in my eyes first thing in the morning. The grounding thing, I thought that's just crazy. What are they? It feels amazing. And then it all gets back to natural. I really believe eating meat, it's what humans have done since the start of time. It was just like you said earlier, Lee. I like to look around with my own two eyes instead of listening to what other people say, because people are like, oh, that's not true. They ate vegetables, they ate this. Where I live, we get wild berries like 3 weeks out of the year. What are these people in Wisconsin in the winter doing all winter? Eating corn and berries? No, they'd kill a big animal. They would eat the meat. Maybe they'd fast for a couple of days, and they were thriving. They have fossil records too. They were giants. They were huge way back when. Only when we started eating all these vegetables, we started shrinking down. But everything, that's the answer to everything in life. Natural. You look natural. What's more unnatural than rolling up a piece of paper, lighting it on fire, and stick it in your mouth? Smoking. Like, that's the craziest thing. It's so unnatural. It causes cancer. Or drinking neon green Mountain Dew with you don't know what ingredients. It's pretty unnatural. It's like, and then like you said, you get in the sun, you do all these other things. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, you know, Carrie, this would have happened if you, it's just because you eliminated that junk food and the sugar and the seed oils. I'm like, well, I had a big part in it. And in the beginning, when I started carnivore, I used to believe that. They're like, well, you could have just ate vegetables and done it. Now I totally don't believe that. And the other reason is, you touched on this a little bit, but I've been learning more about this. Meat's been demonized for so long. You're going to eat that fat. It's going to clog your arteries. You're going to have a heart attack. So I've been avoiding meat my whole life. I believe there's a deficiency in people's cholesterol levels. I was talking to Dr. Kiltz, and he was like, I've been so blessed to talk to so many of these doctors through the Carnivore Diet movie. Dr. Chafee as well. When you get the meat and you get the fat and you get your cholesterol goes up, it regulates your hormones. That helps you sleep. And that helps with depression and anxiety. So if you just eat the plant, if you think you're going to just eat the plants and be just fine, I don't think you're going to, for many reasons. I don't think it's sustainable, but you're missing out on that fat. Like you said, your brain's made out of it. You need that cholesterol to regulate your hormones.
It's more than that as well. I mean, I get these, like, I get on to having small debates with certain people, and people will always argue that we make our own cholesterol. But the point is that, yes, you will make your own cholesterol if you don't consume it, because you will die if you don't. That's how important it is, right? You will literally die. The reason why, it's not just your brain that's made of it. Every single cell, trillions in your body, is coated in it. You know, it's how you synthesize pretty much every hormone, including vitamin D. So how the hell are you going to be healthy if you don't eat saturated fats and cholesterol? It just doesn't make sense. And so, yes, if you went on a vegan diet, you could say, right, I eradicated the whole foods, the processed foods, and I'm on like a paleo or a vegan or a vegetarian diet, that's great, but you're not in ketosis. So you're still fueled with glucose. That's not going to work for depression. That's why vegans don't really cure depression like carnivores do. So
Right.
that's the first issue. You are not in ketosis. So you can eat whole foods, but you're not in ketosis. Another thing is that you're missing about 13 different nutrients if you don't eat animal products. The biggest known one is B12, but people are starting to realize now that we don't get proper vitamin A. You get retinol in meat, animal products, but you only get, this carotenoids, beta carotenoids and things like that in plants, just like heme and non-heme. But it's not just like B12 that they have to supplement. They don't get DHA, which is a very important fatty acid. It's an omega-3, right? And a marine omega-3 rather than their equivalents that they find in plants, which are molecularly similar, but just really quite confusing and inflammatory on the body. And so they mess up your hormones and your endocrine systems. There's multiple reasons why it just doesn't make sense. And like you said, I see people that in their pantry, so I live in the UK, we don't grow, like naturally, you won't ever see a lemon, an orange or a banana or whole grains just all year round. Certainly not the fruits. They don't even grow here. They never have. Yet most of my customers, I see them eating that stuff every morning. Like it's in their pantry. It's like a lemon's never grown here. I mean, we've made lemons for a start. They're not natural. They're like hybridized. And now you've got some like whole grains, and it's like you wouldn't have grains, and berries that have never grown in this country, like goji berries. They're pouring into porridge oats and having it every day. It's like, that's so strange. That doesn't make any sense. Your body thinks you're in summertime in another country, and you're just on glucose the whole time. So there's so many different things. It's one thing for your body to make enough to keep you alive of cholesterol, but there's another thing to get into ketosis, eat an abundance of it. That's why the brain fog goes. That's why the depression goes. And then you've got this lovely energy, and your hormones, they come back. And so women start having their menstrual cycle. I did an interview with this guy called Eric a little while ago. I posted that I concised it down and posted it on my channel, but he's a really lovely guy. He used to be, I think, on a vegan or vegetarian diet. They couldn't have children, right? They were struggling. And basically he's been on a keto diet now. He's having a baby. It's these things like that. That's like, it's incredible. Women get their periods back. A lot of women, they get PCOS, the inability to get pregnant. And it's like, they go on a carnivore, they can have children, like their brain fog goes, they're not anxious, and now they can have children. That is what a life turnaround. So crazy, the difference.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mentioned Dr. Kiltz earlier. He was on a 24-hour live stream. He's a fertility doctor, teaching carnivore to people, and he's seen it over and over and over again, able to give someone a family. Like, what bigger calling in life there is.
Yeah,
and it's
how amazing is that?
Being natural, eating your natural food. That's all. It's that simple. Right. I try to be careful on like the vegan stuff, because people are like, oh, leave them alone. And I don't, like, you do you can do whatever you want. The reason I bring it up though is because, Lee, you've had the horrible depression. I've had the horrible depression. And there's people out there that are considering, well, I'll just do vegan and then I'll just be fine. Well, my question then is, where are all of these vegan videos showing people overcoming depression, overcoming type 2 diabetes, overcoming stomach issues, IBS, inflammatory issues like that? I'm not seeing any of these videos. So the reason I get kind of fired up about it is because the whole purpose is to help these people. Lots of hopeless people out there. And you're going to lead them down the wrong path if they do that. So, yeah.
There's so many arguments to be made. And again, not only do I not want to be pushy with the carnivore side of things with other people, but I also don't want to just attack people. So this is something I've noticed. I mean, I get a lot of vegans that just come and attack me on my channel, but I don't think I've ever even considered going on and watching some vegan content and putting something in the comments. I've not done that ever. So it's just interesting to think that we're on a different side of things. Like we just want to help. And I know that they're very passionate about animal cruelty and the animals. I'm with them. Like there's no need to be cruel to animals. We don't want to lock them up in feedlots and pump them with stuff. Let's stick them out in pasture. Let's have them live their natural, normal, happy life. And then we can give them a quick shock, right towards the end of their life. Because we all have to go through that process somewhat. I know humans that die in far worse ways for years and years on drugs, going to the toilet over themselves and die in a home alone. That's worse than the way these animals die. So if we, and I know they want to save the animals, but what you're doing is destroying humans in the process. So what do you care about more, like your family or the animals? And it's one big ecosystem. I know that like nature just clearly offends certain people. You know, 63, I think it's 63% of the animal kingdom kills to eat to survive. You know,
Right.
that's like, what are you going to do? Deprive 63% of the animal kingdom? Because I thought you loved the animals. You
Right.
know, so
I'm,
you know, I
I'm on
don't
the
like to
same page.
attack, but
Yeah. Well, my daughter was vegan for 5 years and switched to carnivore. And her whole
yeah,
reason was compassion for animals. And she
yeah,
was suffering so bad, plant-based. She was just fatigued and tired and pale and acne and hormonal issues and everything. And
yeah,
it was like a light switch went off. But we made these shirts up called Compassionate Carnivore. Because
mm,
I truly believe carnivore. I'm not trying to hype it up either. I truly believe carnivore is the most compassionate diet if you do it right. I guess there's wrong ways to do it, but like we get most of our meat from our neighbors. It's grass-fed beef. We see the cows every day. I
mm,
did a video with my neighbor. He's such a good steward of the land and his animal. He names all of the cows. They have a great long life. And if you
yeah,
think
yeah,
about it, one cow dies, we get hundreds of meals off of that
yeah,
one cow.
for
And when my
sure.
daughter Emma was doing the plant-based stuff, she'd go and get all sorts of these weird vegan concoctions and ingredients, and even just a salad. There's this one stat I always share with people. It just blew my mind when I heard this, but it's like you can anyone can Google this. I'm not making it up. Every year, 74 million birds die from pesticide poisoning on
Mm,
plants and vegetables. It's like when you grow plants, there's a lot of animals and ecosystems and things that end up dying. They turn the soil over and you can destroy whole ecosystems. Those pesticides too, that's just birds, 72
yeah,
million
that's
birds.
one thing.
But then you have
Yeah,
squirrels and fox, and you have all of the downstream effect and all those insects that end up dying from it. So if you think you're doing vegan and you're not killing any animals, I don't think that's true. I think it's actually quite the opposite. I really think carnivore is more compassionate all around if you look at it. If we want to live, something is going to end up dying. So what's the most compassionate way to do it? I really think it's carnivore.
100%. Yeah, I mean, Paul Mason put it like this. He says, if you think vegan diets exist, you're kidding yourself, because you cannot have life without death. You've got the fossil fuels, you've got the cows and their poop and their wee, they fertilize so you can grow plants. You can't grow plants in dirt. So you have to have the organisms and the bacteria, which only come from rotting flesh, dead animals and things, and feces and livestock. All of these things, just one huge natural ecosystem. And the moment we deviate from that, that's when we see all this, you know, pernicious stuff in society happening to health, not just us, but like that video I made, I learned that the whole alligator population in the Everglades is at risk because of DDT, which is what they used previously prior to glyphosate and atrazine, because they're
Wow.
estrogen. So they spray on these mono fields and like they're monocropping and all their vegetation, um, basically estrogens, because they interfere with the life cycle of the bugs and things. So they can't, so they don't go there. But it's going to kill them, and it makes us seriously sick. And they found DDT to like even today in certain places around the world in women's urine, pregnant women's
Mm,
urine, and it's killing off the alligator population. So it doesn't help the animals, it doesn't help us. When we're sick, we have to go to hospital. That means with factory-made drugs and synthetics. It just goes on and on and on. You know, there isn't, and this is everything. I mean, even just outside of food, you think the water wastage that they use on data systems and servers to cool them down. That's progress, right? All this technology, yet they have to cool down with all this water, and it's madness. All really, everything that we've called progression for the last 100 years has been regression. It's been really, really quite a, a mistake, really, in a lot of ways.
right.
Not that I'm not grateful to be able to talk to you here right now and with this technology, but you know what I mean. Like it's not.
Yeah.
There's something very unnatural about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's far more to it than food. But yeah, food is one of the biggest things, the biggest components that contributes or doesn't contribute to these things.
Right. Yeah. So that's a all the things you're saying, I'm totally on board with, and I'm seeing things more clearly now. I don't know if it's because I'm carnivore, because I'm taking kind of stepping outside the fog and looking in from the
Took that red
outside,
pill,
but
man.
yeah, like walking around the grocery store, just the general public. Again, I try not to be in people's faces either. The whole purpose of the carnivore diet movie too, just for anyone that's new to this, is just to show real examples of people doing carnivore for different health reasons, like IBS or IBD or type
Mhm.
2 diabetes or depression, anxiety. The whole impetus, the whole reason I wanted to do the documentary was 100% because of depression and anxiety. I know there's so many hopeless people out there. My friend Sean, who co-hosted with me on the 24-hour live stream, horrible,
Mm.
horrible depression he was able to overcome. I hear that story over and over again. And I just think, man, I wish 20 years ago I knew about this. I suffered
Oh
from
man, me too.
depression for years and years and years. And I know there's millions of people out there right now suffering from depression and they don't have
More
to.
than ever.
And Lee, there's millions of people suffering from stomach issues, IBD, IBS, Crohn's, colitis,
Yeah.
and a lot of them just don't have to. It's That's one of the things it's kind of hard with this too. When you walk around and you see people, you start. I've been having like these carnivore epiphanies where it's like, man, this is just crazy. It's just like everything is so backwards, and
It really
it's
is. Yeah.
normal for the general public because they've been doing it for so long. Like you go to the grocery store, and I'm not shaming people, but everyone's overweight. But that aside, they're hunched over, they're arthritic, they have brain fog. A lot of them are miserable. It's almost like, I'm not trying to exaggerate it, but you really look closely, it's like a zombie movie or something. These people just aren't living.
Yeah, yeah.
And are you seeing things like that more?
All the time. I saw that. Honestly, I'm not even lying. When that 21 first day came along, that 3 weeks when I pulled over, everything fell into place. I felt like genuinely there's so much that pertains to the Matrix with this journey. That
Yeah.
film is genius. Like that made me realize how accurate that film really is as just not only a concept, but it's actually real. Like the majority of people are inured, hopelessly defending the system that is failing them. They don't want to take the red pill because they're too inured. It's crazy. These people,
Yeah.
like you said, you go into a grocery store. I feel like, when Neo he plugs back in the Matrix, but he understands the truth and he sees the world. And Morpheus is like, it's amazing, isn't it? Like what you see. That is exactly the reality of this situation, is that all I see every single day is the Matrix. All these blue pill that they're just plugged in and they're slaves to the system. They don't even know that they're keeping it going as well, and that their kids are going to be in serious trouble because the world is only getting worse. We had DDT, now we've got glyphosate, now we've got atrazine. Atrazine has turned male frogs into female frogs with eggs. That's what it's done to frogs. So what's it doing to humans? And I mean, I don't know what we can or can't talk about. Feel free to edit it out. But if you want to be confused about who you are, and I think you know what I mean, like, give your kid loads of plants with atrazine and flax seeds that are high in estrogens and soy products, which are in everything. In the States, you've got soybean oil in all processed foods. They're going to mess your endocrine systems up. You're going to be a bit confused, when you're young, certainly. So, it's only going to get worse. And I see it everywhere. There's so many things that connect. I mean, I've thought about more and more things, like even just, I've got like a mercury filling that I'm thinking about getting removed. It's like, I don't want that in my mouth anymore. Like the carpet, like we had vinyl floor put down when we got this house. It's like, why did I get vinyl? It's so toxic. And all of this stuff that I'm thinking about just because of carnivore. And like you said, you start introduce grounding. So when I'm in, like right now I'm grounding. I've got a grounding mat. And I just plug it in the wall. And so when I'm playing the piano or if I'm working on a project, or like right now, my feet are grounded. I don't know how well that works. I prefer to be out on the grass than that. But I see it everywhere. You've got people that are wearing sunglasses and sun cream, and they wonder why they're vitamin D3 deficient. And they don't have any circadian rhythm. They wear sunglasses to protect them from the sun, and then when they come in and the sun goes down, they turn all the lights on in the house.
Right.
And they're completely out. Everything's backwards. It's just madness.
Everything's backwards. Yeah. Man, everything you're saying is so crazy. I'm like, he gets it. Someone gets it. Thank goodness. I've been doing the same thing. The grounding. I'm like, this was insane. And I naturally started doing it. I heard someone say the best thing to do is get natural sunlight in your eyes early in the morning. So I left my curtains open. That woke me up. I'm like, well, now I'm awake. So then I walked outside with my shoes off. I was like, wow, this feels really good. Just getting my toes in the grass and the sand. And now I've done it every day for like 100 days. I don't know. When winter comes, I'm going to just condition myself. I'm going to just keep doing
it. Yeah, keep doing it. It doesn't matter. It still works. Like even with the sunlight, just to get outside and as much naked skin to the sun as you can, honestly.
Yeah, it's natural. That's what humans would have done. It's just natural.
Yeah, 100%. We would have slept
everything else you're saying though too. I've been doing like people will think I'm crazy. I don't even care. I don't do anything anymore. I deodorant, No?
Yeah.
Don't
I don't
don't
even use
like,
toothpaste.
I was just gonna say that.
I just
I
brush
don't
with
use
water.
toothpaste anymore. I'll use, like, a little floss pick every now and then, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like, people are like, "Oh, you're too paranoid," but I don't even know what those ingredients are, and there's been so much
Exactly,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah. I'm
Another thing
exactly the
that's really
same.
kinda crazy with me, but I've been doing this for years now. I take a shower, I'll wash my hair. I don't even use shampoo anymore. I This is my theory on the shampoo, okay? It's like God made the human being so perfect, all of these things, but he's like, "Oh, the hair, we can't figure that out. We're gonna have to put some detergent in there and get it." Like, it's
Right,
another natural thing. Your hair has oils in it, and you put all this stuff in. I always make fun of my wife because she's like, or just women in general, they're always like, "Oh, I got all these split ends. I gotta go here, I gotta go here." And meanwhile, my hair is perfect. I don't put anything in. I'm like, it has natural oils in it. You're putting these
right.
detergents in there. It's removing the oils, and then you're like, why is it split ends? It's just, but yeah, everything. I won't even chew a piece of gum anymore. That's the only
No,
bad thing
no.
on carnivore too, is like, sometimes the breath can get a little bad on carnivore. I don't really care, but I'm like, I was tempted to chew some gum before I had a conversation, so I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So for 6 months now, I've had no deodorant, no toothpaste, no shampoo. It's just natural. Just
Yeah,
I'm
it's
fine.
the
I
best
feel
way.
great. Like what?
It's the
Yeah,
best way. Why would you? I mean, if you think about this, like they often say, brush your teeth with this twice a day, and then like Listerine. I don't know if you have that. Is it glycerine or Listerine? Sorry,
yeah,
like a
yep,
mouthwash. That stuff is just coats your mouth with sticky, sugary stuff, and then all the bacteria like feeds on it. It's just worse. And it really yellows
right.
up your teeth. Like stains your teeth, and then you end up going to the dentist. And I've even spoken to a dentist like, don't ever use the mouthwash. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But yeah, like you start thinking about all these things. I started looking at the ingredients. I do wash in soap, but I use baby soap, baby products, and I only use a very small amount. And so I just use what I need, and that's it. I don't smell. I don't sweat. I
Right.
don't.
That's
I've not
another
had any
thing.
complaints. My family are very honest with me. Lucy would tell me right away.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've had breath problems or like BO. Like it just doesn't happen. I don't sweat, so it's crazy.
Yep.
Certainly, if you wash every day, like I don't think anyone's going to think like, oh wow, you don't wash or something like that. It's like, no, I do wash. I
Right.
just wash how we're supposed to wash. We probably would have just got in a lake in a puddle or something.
That's one of the other reasons to write stuff down too, because that's another thing that was crazy on carnivore. It's like, I don't have BO, I barely sweat anymore. It's just all these things. I The other thing with the mouthwash I've heard too is there's lots of links to your stomach and depression and your stomach and your brain and those links. And I've heard with like mouthwash too, that can mess up your gut biome or whatever. I don't know. I don't know the science behind all of it, but lots
It'll
of
probably
reasons why
mess
it's
up your
pretty
mouth biome.
unnatural to digest that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how it works, but yeah, it's going to mess up your mouth biome for sure. Anything like that. You got biome in your
Yeah.
mouth, and why would you want to mess that up?
Right.
They're there for a reason. It wants to be. It's just trying to restore itself. And then if you're twice a day putting this mouthwash in, it's like that's you're prolonging some kind of inflammation. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess one other thing I just want to say real quick too, on the front of, you asked me earlier, like the brain power and things changing. That's definitely been true. And the biggest thing to this that's just still I'm humbled by, but it's just blowing my mind is I'm only on 6 months carnivore. I think maybe some people do better on carnivore. I don't know. People say that to me like, you're so fired up about it. But I also think I was in such a horrible place before carnivore. They're like, "You're so fired up, you're inspirational." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, if you knew me before this, I wouldn't be on this phone call with you." I was so
Right.
anxious before. I've said this a million times on my channel. I used to have calls with clients where I would be on my lunch break. I'm like, "I'm gonna just crash my car into this tree because I don't wanna have to talk to someone on the phone or
Yeah.
do a call."
Yeah.
I had horrible anxiety. All that's gone, but in 6 months, we just did that 24-hour live stream with, like,
Right.
doctors and surgeons and neuroscientists. I would have been completely terrified, but the craziest thing is 6 months ago, I didn't even know what carnivore was. I saw a YouTuber do it, and if you would've asked me what carnivore was, I'd be like, "Is that a diet? Is that like that Liver King guy? Like, I don't know. What is that?" I'm not
Right.
even
Right.
really sure
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
I knew what keto was. I'd done keto on and off for years, but I thought carnivore was crazy. So, just 6 months, all of this has happened. I, it's so fun talking to you though, because I share the passion and the fire and the, like, just
Yeah.
look, like, you just wanna tell people, like, just get it out there. That's why we're doing this, documentary. Um,
Yeah,
just
definitely.
to
That's
share
just great. Yeah.
of real people doing carnivore, and it's you're probably getting this on your YouTube channel too. So shout out Kent Carnivore on YouTube. I have a link in the description, and I have it here on the screen. I love your YouTube videos too, by the way. We share another passion as
Cool.
well,
Appreciate it.
editing. You kill
Right,
it on
right.
the editing. I love editing. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
find this too? Like you edit a video and it's great, and you're like, "This is good," but then 6 months later you watch, you're like, "Man, I could have done that so much better." It's like it's like this
I'm a bit of a
never ending.
perfectionist like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm definitely a
Yeah,
perfectionist. It's strange. Like I've been like that with everything. I mean, I've painted so when I used to paint portraits, and I haven't done for a little while, there would be a finishing phase where you just gloss it or whatever, you kind of seal it and it protects it. If I notice something that I could have improved, because as you get better over the years, it's like, oh man, I wish I didn't gloss that so I could just fix that and make that better, and then I could have.
right.
Yeah, I'm like that with everything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
YouTube's
perfectionist.
interesting that way too, because I've been doing YouTube for like 8 years now, it's been amazing, but I
Mm,
remember doing videos 5 years ago, I'm like, "Oh, this is the best video I ever did," and now I'll
right.
go rewatch, I'm like, "Man, that was garbage. Like, what
Yeah,
was I
funny, isn't it?
doing?"
Yeah. It's the
Just a
quality as well that's come on with things like you can pull like higher clips and use better quality cameras and microphones, and like you say, yeah, you just
Yep,
get used to different tricks of to solving certain problems. I'm only using iMovie, so I would like to expand and get onto some better software and invest in a better camera and a microphone just so that I can, you know, build a better end product really.
right. Well, I love what you're doing and how you edit things together and you pull these clips in, it's so
Mm.
interesting, your Jordan Peterson one's going nuts, I saw you just did one on Michaela, I gotta check that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you ever wanna I'm your new best friend here in Wisconsin. If you ever wanna geek out on camera or equipment, I used iMovie. I've done like 600 YouTube videos, maybe 700 at this point, and almost every one of them I edited on iMovie. I only
Right,
recently
wow, cool.
upgraded. I'm like an iMovie power user, like, I could figure out how to do stuff in it. I've been using it so long. I never wanted to switch, but I recently switched to Final Cut Pro, and I really do like it, so if
That's
you
what
ever
I've
wanna
looked at.
talk
Yeah.
about it, I'd be happy to. Um, but, I was gonna say something else, and I can't remember. Hmm.
You go in Liverpool?
Carnivore.
You
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to get out to your neck of the woods at some point with this carnivore
Yeah,
diet
that'd be cool, man.
documentary. I actually recently got my passport, but yeah, that'd be fun to meet up. That's our next step. So we did the 24-hour live stream. It was really successful. I'm so happy how it turned it beyond expectations. And now we have the funds to go film more people. We already filmed Bill in Alaska, which was just an incredible story. Um,
Mm.
there's a woman, Maggie. I don't know if you've seen this one, Lee,
Yeah, I've
but
heard. Yeah, Maggie's great. Yeah. She
yeah,
looks phenomenal.
I talked to her. She's so cool. It's so weird talking to an 82-year-old and you feel like you're talking to just your own peer because she does not
Yeah,
seem like she's
yeah, yeah,
82 years old. I'm chatting with her all the time, but I'm probably going to be flying out and filming her story, which is just incredible. 82 years old carnivore, been doing it forever, like 60 years, and she's just thriving.
yeah.
Um,
I envy her
but
kids. They would
yeah,
teeth or venison. They were like 6'4" and super healthy. It's like, yeah, there you go. That's the product. That's a carnivore right there.
that's that's the other big reason for this. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but this next generation of children, none of them are going to know what it's like just to be a natural human. Started from birth on little sugary juice, apple juice, and just
Mad.
inflammation, and then they get ADHD and learning disorders, and then that leads to depression in their teenage years and adult years. And that's the other
They're
reason I'm
all
so
just
fired up
medicated.
about getting this word out more.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many medicated kids, which is just like such a depressing reality. You know, like how, like what? It's like 1 in 5 children have fat on their liver because their parents think it's healthy to give them fruit juice. That's pretty much why. You know, it's
Mhm.
madness. You just gave them a bowl of fructose. That's it. There wasn't even. If you're gonna have fructose, have the whole fruit, have the fiber. It carries it away from the liver. But if you just juice, and everybody's told like, oh, have a smoothie, like a green smoothie or an orange smoothie, and all these different colors. You just had sugar. You just had like a liver damaging fructose drink, and it came with oxalates, and it came with lectins, and it spiked your blood glucose. It's like it's terrible, terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to get the word out for sure.
Exactly. That's why that is so. That's why this is great. What you're doing and it's so important. Um,
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but you too, your story and you putting it on YouTube, because I don't know anything about IBD, IBS, and there's millions of people out there suffering from
so
that
many.
can relate to you and can hear your story. I can't wait to I'm here to help elevate your voice and anything we can do. If you ever want to do videos together or if you got something big and you want me to promote it, I'd be more than happy to.
Appreciate it,
And
man.
yeah, absolutely. And one thing that's I hope this is probably happening to you already or it's going to more is I did my 30-day video, and like I said, I've been doing YouTube for 8 years. I'm like, I'm doing one video on carnivore. I'm a homesteader. I do homesteading videos, and
Right,
that's
right.
all I've ever done. I did that 30-day video. I was like, this is crazy. These comments I'm getting from people. And then people
Yeah, yeah.
started doing it. They're like, I saw your 30-day video, Carrie, 3 weeks ago, and I did it. And it was just like you were saying, Lee. On week 1, the acid went away. On week 2, the pain in the back went away. On week 3, the energy started coming back. My depression's going away. I'm like, how can I not get fired up about this? And then I did
Right.
another video and it was like a little passion thing. But since then, it's turned into like this responsibility. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
not have this information to help people and not get it out there more. So I joke around on carnivore. I have no more addictions, sugar, nothing else, but I have one addiction and it's carnivore itself. And
Food.
like just
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to
Oh.
share this story with people and these examples with people. And when we did that 24-hour live stream, this was the craziest thing that happened. We have a lot of doctors that are awesome and great. But for me, it was I reached out to people. I was like, just send me your individual story on carnivore, just a condensed 2-3 minute version. I ended up
Yeah.
getting 2.5 hours worth of those, and my inbox is filling up right now with more of them that they didn't get in on time.
Right,
And
right.
those things are amazing. These
Yeah, yeah.
testimonials from individuals, and it's kind of heartbreaking at the same. It takes a toll. Like you see all of this, it starts taking a toll. Like I'm happy to do it. I'm thankful to do it, but just story after story after story, and every one of them has the same thing in common. It's just like you, Lee, and me. These people are like, I want my voice to be heard. I want people to
Mhm.
see what I went through and know that they don't have to. There's hopeless people out there that don't have to be hopeless. And so
Exactly.
I'm getting fired up about those little shorts. We're putting a thing on our website. It's going to be a bigger part of the documentary now. Is we're going to have a bunch of big stories like Bill, but a bunch of little, smaller, quick stories. Like this is what happened. This is
Mm.
my carnivore story. Because have you noticed this? Like, what are your feelings on this? I feel like I didn't even know what carnivore was 6 months ago. Now I
Mm.
know it a lot more, but it seems to me like it's growing and spreading. A lot of people are kind of scared to talk about it, but I'm seeing it more and more. It really feels like it's picking up speed. I don't know. What are your thoughts
Certainly
on that?
feels, I mean, it certainly feels like that online. So I don't know whether it's because my channel's grown a little bit more, but I mean, I've certainly had people, and I don't want to sound like I'm sort of blowing my own trumpet, but I've had, honestly, I can't even count the amount of people that say, you're the reason why, you're the
Yes.
reason why I adopted this diet, or thanks to you, or like I was almost there, but this has convinced me, and stuff like that. And so that it's just so rewarding. I know it's kind of selfish, but it's a good kind of selfish. It's like the
Yes.
positive type of selfish, because I'm rewarded by these people fixing their lives, or at least attempting to, and that it all starts there, really. Question some things, and be willing to make those sacrifices. Sacrifices are amazing, because you only usually get good things come from making sacrifices, and something as big as diet, getting rid of even highly processed foods, seed oils and grains. That if you just got rid of them, if everyone in the world just like got rid of highly processed foods over the course of a week, and then seed oils the next week, and then all grains the next week, I think like 6 months later there would be this like massive drop in prescribed medications, and maybe like suicides and all these problems. You know what I mean? Even people that go out and
Yeah.
do bad things and harm people, like maybe they find peace and love in their life, and it's like, but then lots of people start making money. So
Right. Lee, imagine this. So you got people on your channel saying, you're the reason why you put me over the edge. You're the reason I started carnivore and doing it now. Those are people that could have been exactly like you that now maybe are going to save their colon or save them from
yeah, yeah,
depression or
yeah,
save
that's
them from
great.
suicide. It's like, how can you not get fired up about that? It's
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
crazy
Yeah.
thing. And then the other thing with it too is this, which is just really blowing my mind because I don't know, I get geeky with the numbers and the data. And I kind of mentioned this when Dr. Barry came on, because when I learned about carnivore, I was like, this is insane. I'm not doing it, even though I saw these YouTubers doing it. But then I watched a million Dr. Barry videos and I was like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
guy's right. There's something
I did
there.
the same.
But
Yeah, yeah.
the downstream ripple effect is what's
Hmm, hmm.
insane. So Lee puts his video out and you inspired someone and they left a comment. They said, Lee, because of you, I did
Right.
carnivore, it changed my life forever. But now that person's doing it and 10 more people see it. It's happened for me too. Both of my sisters are carnivore now. My mom,
Yeah,
my
that's so
stepdad's
cool.
carnivore. My daughter, who was a vegan for 5 years, is carnivore. My other daughter's carnivore. And now each one of them are their own sort of shining
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
And then 10 more and 10 more. I think it's going to hit like this critical
That's
mass
quite
at some
impressive.
point.
That's actually, I think that's more impressive than the average story, though. You're like, so many people in your family and close to you have gone carnivore. Like, I hear that, I often hear this is that they've gone carnivore and they've cured their ailments, and they're like, it's upsetting that their family won't buy it, that they don't believe in it or something. So I hear a lot of
Right.
that as well, that like it's such a shame. I keep sharing your videos, but my mum's not convinced, or I keep sharing all of this plus this guy and all of this stuff, and my mum's too, like, I don't know, she says it's too late or something, and it's like, well, how old's your
Yeah.
mum? She's like, she's 68. It's like, it's not too late. Like
Right.
you could live for another 15 years
Yeah.
easily. Like, why would you want to not feel great and mitigate all this, I don't know, depression or inflammation? Most of the people that come to the door when they pay me and stuff, they're just swollen around the ankles and they're all
You can
hunched
see it.
over. They look bad, like, and they're taking medications. They think that they're on their, I don't know, being seen to in some positive way. And I don't know, it's delusional, really. It's not their fault, bless them. They've taken what they thought was real advice, but the mainstream advice isn't real advice. It's kind of like, it's misanthropic information, really. Whether
Right.
these people that give it know that or not is dangerous, because and I hear about it all the time. I was in the chemist the other day because I just needed to get some cream for around my stoma. It's some, I don't take any medications. I haven't taken anything, but because of the nature of what I have, it's unnatural what things are touching what, if that makes sense. My ileum isn't
Right.
supposed to be touching my abdominal wall in that way. So I went and just got like a little bit of cream, which is just to treat this little condition that's developed. And again, that has nothing to do with diet. It's the fact that I was in an unnatural situation. I've certainly ended up in a very unnatural situation with my outcome. It's very strange. It's not normal. I should have died age 28, really. If it wasn't for all these surgeons that can do what they can do, and it is magical what they can do, but it's just not necessary in the first place. But I was down there getting this cream, and there was like two people in the queue, and both of them come to collect their statins, and it's like, I remember just, I don't know, it's so difficult because I don't want to then just start talking to them in the pharmacy around these people that don't know that they're not helping these people. They're just doing their jobs. They don't understand how it works, and I certainly wouldn't have understood how it worked. But Paul Mason's, he shed light on statins for me. He's done some great work.
Okay.
I really like Paul Mason. So clear, so intelligent, and it's a shame. Like, anyone who's on statins, I just send them straight to Paul Mason. I give them like a couple of links, and I see them like 6 weeks later when I go back round to clean their windows, and they're like, "Wow, that was." So what do you think? It's like, wow, yeah, it's really something, isn't it? And some of them start questioning whether they should be taking this, and what their doctors are telling them is dangerous. Like, your cholesterol's, it's not a problem. Like, your cholesterol's really high. It's like, if you say that in the right way, it's going to sound like, oh no, that's bad, and then like, but this will make you better. And they go, oh, okay. And then they take the drug. It's like, it wasn't a problem in the first place. You didn't,
Right.
you were okay. That wasn't the problem. There's some other issues probably, but let's fix that with the diet. It's not, oh, let's intervene with drugs because I'm smarter than the body. Apparently, it's like, no, the body's very, very smart, knows what it's doing. If you've got high cholesterol, it's for a reason, and it's good, most likely.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You see it more and more. It's so hard.
It is hard because I can't just keep pushing it on people. And some of these people, like, they look, it's hard because they look old. Some of these people, they're like in their 80s, and their wives
Yeah.
come down to pick up the meds for the husband that's at home suffering, all inflamed. And I just want to, it's hard to see. It's really hard to see because what you're seeing is just the broken system, and how it's going to affect that human. That human's probably going to kill that human being. And
Mhm.
it almost makes me feel like what you're saying. It's like you're obligated. You've got like some kind of duty here to help because you have the answer. If I have the answer and I could help and I didn't, like, that makes me a bad person, And so it's like conflicting. Part of me wants to
Yeah.
say something, but I also don't want to offend them. But in a lot of ways, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Right.
It's like it's going to hurt a little bit at first, but we don't want to keep that on there for too long.
Yeah. You know, the aging thing too. That's the other big the depression is one of the big reasons for the documentary, and then shortly after starting to do more YouTube videos, I did one with a gentleman, well, I've actually done a couple now, but, that are just thriving. One was Alex Cannon from the UK, 65, he looks like he's like 40. Then you have Maggie, who's 82, and then you have, Carnivore Ron was one of the first people I interviewed. He's in his 60s, thriving on carnivore, going to the gym all the time, and I started getting all these comments, and it just blew my mind in a good way. I was so happy to hear it. They were older people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're like, "Yeah, I've been doing carnivore for 5 years now, and I'm just thriving." And
Yeah,
I'm like, "What?"
yeah,
I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Like, how are you 70 years old and you're gonna be like, "I'm gonna just change the way I've been eating my entire." I would think I would be set in my ways and be like, "I'm not going to," but it's been just the opposite. And I've seen it over and over again. So if anyone is out there with a loved one or senior citizen and thinking about it, I can't wait to do more videos on that topic on YouTube that can help people. And then in the documentary, it's going to be a huge part of it because everyone can relate to aging. And how sad is it if you work your whole
yeah,
life, you're working a tough, hard job that takes a lot of energy. You do that your entire life only to retire in just mobility issues and arthritis and
yeah,
inflammation, and
yeah,
you're hunched over. It doesn't have to be that way. I've heard it over and over again. And yeah, when you get old, you're gonna have some aches and pains and some issues, but the majority of what I'm seeing, it's completely unnecessary. It's just the nutrition, and these people are eating inflammatory foods and they don't have to.
yeah, yeah.
I,
But yeah,
I
what's
run into the
amazing as
same
well
thing
is
too.
that,
Like, oh,
oh,
sorry.
sorry, man. No, I was going to say, well, it's amazing to me how many people I get in the comments that say, like, I'm 82, I feel like I'm 52. You know, I'm 70, been carnivore for a year, feel like I'm like 45. You know, it's like, wow. It's just amazing to imagine getting that old and then like revert. It's almost like reversing time in that you get to be, you know,
Yeah.
healthy and young and have some kind of feeling of youth again. That's incredible to me.
I don't know if oh, here, I gotta show you this. I don't know if you've seen this one, but or just for the general audience, but that's my friend Alex from Liverpool.
Oh, right. I know
So
who you mean now. I did when you wrote that down, when I read it, I was like, I don't know off the top of my head who it is. I know exactly who that is. Yeah, it's
yeah,
incredible. What a change.
the people that are watching, this version of Alex
That's like
is
his dad next to.
right. He's 65 years old on carnivore. And besides the way he looks, just you speak to him on the phone or you talk to him, he's just full of energy. And I showed him, I'm so fortunate. I'm not trying to name drop stuff, but I had Dr. Barry and I showed him this and I asked him to guess. And I think he guessed, I don't know, like 45 years old. I'm like, he's 65. And I
Yeah,
said to
yeah.
Dr. Barry, I was like, isn't it amazing, Dr. Barry, how this man has reversed aging through carnivore? And I
It
got the
really
Dr.
does look
Barry
like he
finger,
has.
which I use on my channel now. This is the Dr. Barry finger. He does it in all of his
Yeah,
thumbnails. He's like,
yeah, yeah.
wait a minute, Carrie. And this is what it's always, he has something brilliant to say every time. He's like, this man here did not reverse aging through carnivore diet. That is what a proper 65-year-old
Yeah, he
human
does.
looks like
100%.
that's eating a natural, proper diet. I'm like,
Yeah,
exactly. You're right.
yeah.
He's like,
He's
all
got such a
65-year-olds would look
common-sense
that way.
approach to it, hasn't he? That's what's so brilliant about Ken. He's just got such a common-sense approach that everyone can
Yep.
understand it. It's that
Yep.
I think that's like how he discovered it. He's kind of like, that doesn't make sense, you know? I remember he's talking
Right.
about the vitamin D deficiency in breast milk and how, you know, give that lady a vitamin D in the hospital. And he's like, what do you mean there's no vitamin D? What? How do we get here? It's stuff like that, you know, he says, and it's, yeah, it just makes you think. And then when you get on that line of thinking, like you go down all these rabbit holes, you see it everywhere.
Yep. Yeah. You can't not see it anymore for sure. I, one, the, I struggle with the same thing you do. Like you see people in public and you want to help them. I don't know what else we can do, but I think you're doing the best you can. You get your YouTube message out there. People are going to share that with their loved ones. Hopefully they'll see it. I'm doing the same thing. That's the purpose of the carnivore diet documentary. Hopefully we can reach more people
Yeah,
because I believe
totally.
there's just a small subset of people on YouTube that we're hitting. And there's a lot more that maybe are
Yeah,
just sitting in front of the TV with Netflix or one of these big streaming services. The only other thing I do, which is just kind of anecdotal and fun is, I think I mentioned this on a 24-hour live stream, but I made this shirt up. It says, I eat only meat. Ask me why.
ask me why.
And
I was
I've
going to
gotten
just
into
say
some,
that's a great idea. I was just going to, when you
yeah,
said that, I was immediately thinking that because you said, I don't know what else I can do. I was just going to say, like, the fact that you printed those t-shirts, that's a way of not pushing it on someone. It's like going, I'm open if you want to ask. And then they ask, and it's like, cool, when we can get onto it. And then if they don't like the sound of it, cool. But there it is. You've kind of put this out there so that they can ask you, and then you can hopefully potentially help them, because everybody's sick.
And it's amazing because I've only worn it. It's a pretty new shirt. I've only worn it a few times, and its success rate was crazy.
Right.
I was at Target getting some stuff. I literally put the shirt on, went in. This was a weird Target. This is a little store off to the side, and I encountered one person, the cashier, and he was just looking at the shirt, and he asked me, "Okay, tell me why." And we got into this huge conversation. And then I have these little business cards. I'm not making any money off them. They just say, "What do you do then?" Okay. And I say, watch Dr. Barry's carnivore video, watch Dr. Chafee's carnivore video. I got like 3 things on there. I was just talking to someone yesterday. They actually made their own up, which is way better than mine. They put a little QR code on it, and it just takes them right to a landing page that has the videos on
really
it.
Good idea.
That's smart.
That's an awesome
So I got to
idea.
upgrade. Yeah. But yeah, people always ask me, well, what do you say if someone says why? The first thing I tell them is because I believe I would be dead if it wasn't for eating only meat. I really believe it would have the depression I had, it was over. And then the other thing I like to do is then I ask them a question, start asking them questions. Well, why do you think it's weird that I eat only meat? And then just start going from there. But usually if people are curious enough to ask, they're kind of open-minded and they want to hear more. I've also found for the people that, like, when you see family and friends or something and they're like, oh, you lost all this weight, but you're going to have a heart attack, you're going to have this. I think those people kind of mean well too. It's just they're uneducated and confused. And I think subconsciously they're like, they know they're doing something wrong as they're eating a cupcake or some birthday cake at a family get together, and I'm not touching any of it. They know they're doing something wrong. So they're kind of easing into it a little bit. But as you said earlier, it's sad when you know there's people and they're just not ready to commit. They don't have a big enough reason why. For those people that are watching, I always say to them too, though, at some point, maybe you'll get desperate enough that you have to do it. Then you'll know about it. So I guess that's the silver lining. Unfortunately, though, you may get to the point where it's too far, like Lee was, or like some other people were, where you can't reverse the damage that you've done at that point. So
and I've almost been
get
too
fired up
twice.
too. I get fired up too. I always tell people, like, you deserve to feel this way for at least one day in your life. If you're going to live your whole life and not try this, you are missing out. What a waste. What a waste.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I feel like I dodged I could have dodged a bullet twice, but yeah, it almost went too far twice for me. But there's no point in waiting until it is too late. Like, it's easier to prevent than it is to try and reverse, like, years and years of all this inflammation, wherever it might be. That's a harder journey to go on. Though we see it time and time again, even with like fat loss, people will allow themselves to get to such a level when you think, like, how, I mean, I'm sure they think the same, like, how did I let it get this far? Because you see, I know it's like very, very subtle if you're comparing one day to the next, but if you compare 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, they're quite big increments of change. And it's amazing that some people let them get so far. And it always happens. I think that I don't know this lady's name, but she's like, I think she's like a binge eater on YouTube, and she gets lots of views. Well, she's now gone carnivore. Sean Baker made a video about that, but she's now, like, obviously become fed up. She obviously feels some kind of pain, whether it's physical that's made it go, you know what, I've had enough, or whether it's the mental side, I don't know. But she was probably eating all this stuff for clicks and views, and now she's like, I'm fed up. I can't keep doing this, and she's gone carnivore. And so I'm sure she'll have a lot of success, but it's going to be a harder journey than if she'd gone carnivore 2 years ago. You know?
Yeah. Right. Man, I really enjoyed this conversation, Lee. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Yeah, like, shout out to Kent Carnivore on YouTube. I'll have a link in the description below. Is there anything else you want to shout out, or anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up?
Nothing springs to mind, really. Nothing springs to mind. I mean, I could talk and talk and talk, really, and talk about favorite food and everything. You know, it's doesn't matter, but nothing springs to mind. I'm just trying to think of something that could be helpful, really. But I think a lot of people that are watching this, they probably know, and that, you know, like, just go and watch Kendi Berry. That's why I make the documentaries that I make as well, because at first I was trying to share certain things with people, and sometimes it's like it's not easily approachable or not easily digestible. Candy berry is, it's very clear. But I thought, let's concise it down. There's no buts, pauses, like sound probably. It's all just completely concise and clear and digestible. And I use multiple people to tell a clear story from, you know, multiple reliable authorities. And so a lot of people I find have shared my content because they're like, oh, this is great for sharing with my family because my family think I'm crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love how you're doing that too. When you see many different people from different sources talking about it, it's like, ooh, okay, well,
Yeah,
that makes
that
sense.
that helps, I think. It's not just
Yeah.
coming from one person or like, oh, he's probably just a strange doctor who's getting paid by a meat company. I don't know why so many people think that we're getting paid by meat companies. I mean, I actually get people saying like, are you're have you got like shares in meat, or are you trying to sell this? Are you trying to sell that? It's like, but I don't eat any, I don't take any supplements. I eat once a day. I have a YouTube channel that just, you know, spreads what I feel like is nothing but accuracy and truth. And where's the money exactly?
Right.
I mean, by the way, just so people know, and I can show you, I've thought about showing people this, but I didn't want to expose anybody. I've had 2 emails from partnerships from people that want to incorporate things, and you know, because I've obviously gained a little bit more traction. I had off the top of my head, I can think of one person that was talking about some app and a device, and I basically said, look, this carnivore diet, I appreciate that you're considering me, but this carnivore diet is the simplest diet in the world. You don't need an app. You don't need a calculator. They were talking about all these things, and I was like, this defeats. I'm not. You will not buy me. Like someone, I'm not made of money. I have to go to work every day, right? You know. But if somebody tried to buy me to try and advocate something else, or that, oh, carnivore is great, but you need this, and to get paid, I'm not going to do it. You know, like
Yes.
I'm seriously dead on the truth, and that's why sometimes when I get certain comments, I'm kind of like, if only you could just be in my brain right now. I don't have any of those intentions. Like I'm not being paid by meat companies. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I'm sponsored by my own newfound health. Like that's the, do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's just me on my journey. I've found this peace and this love and this new way of life. And so what do I, you know, sure, it's rewarding when I help people, but that's it. That's the only reward I get. And I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, and maybe a lot of other people that are watching this know that you don't get paid a lot on YouTube, by the way.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just bought a new laptop a couple of months back because my other laptop was broken. I haven't made a penny on YouTube, not one penny. But if
Yep.
I and I'm monetized, but if I wasn't monetized, you better believe I'd still be making the exact same content because I was making these videos before I was monetized out of passion. And
Yes.
so I've turned down 2 partnerships with people that are trying to make money out of me also selling their product, obviously, right? Some kind of device. And I'm like, nope, it doesn't. Carnivore doesn't need any device. Carnivore doesn't need a calculator or a tracking. It's natural. It takes care of itself. You wake up, you feel great. You don't even eat breakfast most of the time. And then when you get actually hungry, because we know what actual hunger feels like, it's totally different from cravings on carbs. It's 2 different things. It's a totally different signal. And then you eat proper food, you eat to satiety, you don't even feel like you've eaten. I don't know if you get that.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you get that. Like I've eaten like a tremendous amount of meat. I fasted a little while ago because of this skin. What I'm talking about around my stoma, it's just got a little bit bad, just because of the nature of it. You know, it's not normal. And so I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to fast for 3 days. So I fasted for almost 3 days. The reason why I fasted for almost 3 days is because I was at the butcher's and I was telling them about this fast, and they said, "Here, look, we've just hot smoked this salmon fillet. Just have it." And so I ate it. Oh, it was incredible, right? This hot smoke set after like nearly 3 days of fasting. I bought my meat. I went home. I cooked up 2 ribeye steaks, a pork chop, 6 duck eggs. I ate the whole lot. And I stood up and took my stuff out into the kitchen. I said to Luce, I don't feel like I've eaten anything, but I'm nourished. My body's told me to stop, but I don't feel lethargic. I don't feel like, oh, I've never
Yeah.
regretted what I've eaten on carnivore. My body just tells me yes, no. I listen to that, and it's always great. It's always a good day. So
Yes. I've had the same thing. When I did the 24-hour live stream, I got a little air fryer over there.
yeah, I've
Between
got
we
to
would
get one.
play some pre-recorded things. I had I'm so fortunate, but I had 2 ribeyes, 2 strip steaks, 2 tenderloins, and then my daughter Emma made me our power bowl, which is beef, butter, bacon, eggs, all scrambled up in one bowl. I
Lovely.
had
Yeah,
2 huge bowls of that. Now, this is a different scenario because it was a 24-hour live stream, and it
that's
was
different.
it
Sure.
was
Yeah.
it was tasking because it was a long time, but I've never eaten that much food. And it was the same thing. Like, you'd think after the 6th steak you put down, you'd be like, oh, I feel tired or my stomach hurts. It's a completely different feeling.
It
Well,
doesn't
one
happen.
other thing though, back to your other point on the money part of it, I feel like you and I are completely on the same page again there too, because I'm fired up about this as well, because I feel like the whole reason I'm all for business and stuff too, but I feel like the whole reason we're in this position is business run amok. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
sugar companies. People are like, oh, all of these things that have demonized meat throughout the decades. Most of them, you go back and you look into these studies, which, by the way, usually cost millions of dollars. Who's funding these studies that say that meat's going to kill you or give you a heart attack? Ansel Keys, that's a whole other thing you mentioned earlier. But like these new ones, you look into them and then you get to the bottom of it. It's like it was sponsored by Kellogg's or a
Yeah.
sugar
Yeah. Yeah.
or
All
one of
the
these things.
time.
It's
Yeah. I
it's the
definitely,
Matrix
I'd recommend
analogy again.
everybody looks at it
Yeah,
for sure.
it's
Yeah.
like my whole life, whenever I heard those, because you'd hear those studies on the news, you'd see them on social media, people would reference them, they'd be printed in newspapers and stuff like that. I always thought, oh, there's a study that's for my benefit. That's science.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all biased. It's all
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
driven because they have some sort of motive or agenda. And then when you really get thinking clearly and you're out of the matrix, like Lee and I are, you realize sugar. I think sugar is the biggest industry in the world. You Google that and they're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
tech, everyone's got a phone or oil or whatever. Every single item in the grocery store from billion-dollar companies, Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, Pop-Tarts, cereal, the gas station across the road, you go in there, if they didn't have sugar, nearly every single item, every single business that puts products in there would be gone. There's
Yeah.
like nothing in that place that doesn't have sugar. So the fact that this is just like one of the biggest industries of all time, that they're paying to have ads put in magazines that say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, or meat's going to clog your arteries. All you have to do if you want to sell a ton of sugar is just demonize meat. That's all they're doing. It's just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
run amok. We're here because of business run amok. But long story short, I hate the whole money, this whole carnivore diet documentary. It's been amazing. I've said it a million times. I sound like a broken record. I'm not, any of the donations we get, they all go to the documentary. I've put thousands of dollars in my own money into it. I hate the fundraising. I hate the money. I hate having anything to do with
Yeah.
any of that. For
Yeah.
that very reason that you mentioned, I believe we're in this situation because of greed and money and business run amok. So I don't want to have anything to do with it. But one of the things I love about carnivore, and I hope it stays this way, because the other closest thing we have is keto and Atkins and all of that. But then you get all of these stupid things that ruin it, like the Atkins
Yeah.
products and the keto friendly products. And these people are trying to do their best and they're on keto and they're like, oh, if I'm under 20 carbs, I'll be okay. And then they go to Costco and they buy some keto brownies or pancake mix, and it's just full of
Right. That's
other types of
terrible.
sugar. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
The
the
keto
beauty of
friendly.
carnivore is there isn't much of anything like that, like some
No.
ulterior motive or bias, or oh, we're trying to sell carnivore because the meat company's sponsoring us, which is just insane.
Yeah. I think I was talking to Lucy about this. I think the only things that I would advocate for is if someone had like a high fat jerky with nothing in it but salt,
Yeah.
that I can like but again, I wouldn't encourage snacking, but this would be for more in the beginning. So I think I would probably be happy to sponsor a product like that if it was really like pure organic and nothing in it other than meat, fat, and salt. And also I'd probably do the same with like non-flavored pure electrolytes in a good ratio. And again, I would only really advocate for that in the beginning. That's the only time you really would want to consider electrolytes, is in the beginning for the first maybe 3 months, and whittle it out, because you don't even really need that stuff down the line. Your leg cramps go, like if you get any of that stuff, just be liberal with your salt. I always just tell everyone, be really liberal with your salt. That takes care of everything. It takes care of the carb cravings. It takes care of your sweet cravings. And it also takes care of cramps, at least for the most part, most people. I think if you do eventually start getting cramps, like maybe after a month or 6 weeks or something, it's like, okay, maybe you need to just fortify some proper electrolytes, but high quality, no flavors. I don't even advocate for teas and coffees. Honestly, I don't also attack people. You know, if you've gone carnivore and you love your coffee, I'm just like, you just keep doing what you're doing. It's great. You've just adopted even a meat-based diet. I'm just gonna, like, round of applause, you know, that you've just made a
Right.
huge sacrifice. That's great what you're doing. All the best. More power to you. And, you know, like, maybe don't drink coffee after 6 p.m. You know, certainly, like, if you can, after lunch. You know, but
Right.
yeah, I try not to be dogmatic, and I try not to be too, like, harsh. You know, I'm not, and I don't also want to be like some vegans are. Again, I don't want to attack, but some vegans, like, they're your friend, and then your friend comes off the vegan diet, and it's like, right, you're dead to me. You know, if carnivore doesn't work for someone, I try and figure out maybe why that is. Like, did you transition slow? Did you eat enough fat? Because if you're not eating enough fat, then no wonder, right? You're going to feel like
Mhm.
lethargic. Your hormones aren't back, and yeah, you need to really up the fat. Go for a 50-50 baseline. Have you added salt liberally to taste? Are you cooking in seed oil still? And then if they're doing everything right, but it's just not working for them, then I'd say, well, maybe try adding some avocado and some olives. They're probably the next best thing to add. And if you don't have any gut weakness, maybe have some macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts, couple of Brazil nuts, just something like that. Yeah, you know, but I can't see myself ever selling anything if it's not really in line with, like, pure carnivore, because
Right.
then I'm kind of part of the cause that I'm against. You know, that you don't
Yep.
need to track, you don't need to count. Just listen to your body. At first, if you don't know, it's hard to listen to your body. So that's when you need guidance. Salt to taste, lots of fat, go slow, transition slow. But after that point, after like 6 weeks to 3 months, you should fall into what is your customized personal carnivore diet. You know, I don't personally have bacon anymore. It's just something that's happened. Like, I don't. Plus, there's often little bits of sugar in bacon that they put in bacon, which is so sad. Don't know why you need
Right.
sugar in bacon, but
Yeah.
um,
I I
yeah,
had a company, early on in carnivore, they did the carnivore snacks. They wanted to sponsor, and they sent them to me, and I tried them, and they were kind of expensive, but, my daughter Emma and I were doing videos together. I'm like, "We don't snack." Like, what's the
yeah,
point? The only
yeah,
argument I could find for them, though, that is a decent one, is if you travel a lot, that would be
right. That's
handy
yeah,
to have
yeah.
that for traveling, so that would make sense. But
To
it's so
get you through
funny because this
customs in the airport,
right, yeah. The
you know, until you get
24-hour
to your
live
destination.
stream, we were trying to get some companies to sponsor, give us money that would 100% go to the documentary, so for a good
Yeah,
cause, and it was nearly impossible. It was like, 'cause
right.
there's not a lot of companies doing it, there's just a couple, and, that's the beauty of and I'm happy with that. That's the beauty of carnivore, there's not a lot of bias and stuff like that there, but
Maybe like some
we did get
ketone
one.
sticks or something
Yeah.
that you
We
can
got
pee
a
on.
company that did bison, liver crisps, and those are actually kinda cool, and it's just bison, it's regeneratively farmed, and it's salt, there's nothing else in it,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
for people
yeah,
that don't get enough organ meats or whatever, I was like, "That'll work," so we did a little thing with them, and,
yeah.
I kinda like that too because I should probably be eating I don't know, do you do any organ meats?
So in the beginning, I was under the impression that my vitamin C may be on the low side if I didn't have liver. So I was making the effort, and I didn't like liver. If I'm being honest, I don't like liver really. Certainly cooked. That's the funny thing. So I tried certain organs, and I thought, well, I'm making an effort at least once a week to have like a couple of strips. Then I got on to learn a little bit more. And first of all, there's sufficient vitamin C in high quality meat, no doubt, just 100%. Michaela Peterson's been on this diet for, it's like 5.5 years. It's probably getting on to 6 years, I think, in December, she said. And she's been on a strict lion diet, right?
Yeah.
And I know she does have liver occasionally, but she's not got scurvy. And it's not like she's having liver every day. And so it's not like you need your glass of orange juice on your normal diet, what they say, get your glass of orange juice, get your vitamin C. So I only began to eat it, and I was kind of force feeding myself like a couple of strips, and I would cook it in bacon grease and add lots of salt, and just to try and muster it really. But as the time's gone on, I kind of whittled out, and I thought, well, it doesn't make sense, and my body doesn't really crave it, and I don't really like it. Then maybe I just don't need to eat it. Then I got into Bart Kay's channel, and Bart Kay, I'm sure you know Bart Kay and his messages about organs and stuff like that. You don't need to eat any organs ever, and the reason why is because you have a nutrient-dense food in fatty red meat, and there is sufficient vitamin C, and because you're not having glucose, it doesn't compete. There's carnitine in meat. That's another vitamin C sparing mineral. It's only found in animal products because of the pathways and things like that. Like you only need a small amount, and that blew my mind. Is that you don't need that much. It just shows you, like, the most popular supplemented vitamin is vitamin C. Like, everyone takes an abundance of it, and it's in all the plant foods. But the reason why they have to do that is because you almost don't get anything, because it's all this sugar all the time. So
Yeah.
I did start eating raw liver, and funnily enough, I actually enjoyed raw liver like 5 times more than cooked liver. It's sweeter, doesn't have the same twang. Then I started to dabble with a little bit of raw, just out of curiosity, really. I do eat raw eggs a lot. I eat a lot of raw eggs, but I don't eat any liver anymore, unless I'm in a situation where I see it and I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't mind having a bit of liver, and I just order a strip, like grass-fed lamb liver. I might grab some bone marrow and have that with my steak. But honestly, I don't crave it. I don't really enjoy it. I've got some tongue. I just picked up some tongue from the butcher. That's actually really nice. If you haven't tried tongue, I boil it for like 3.5 hours, and you can peel the outside off. But then you can cut it really thinly sliced and salt it. Oh man, seriously, it's so delicious. It tastes, to me, it reminds. Yeah, it's really, really good. It almost reminds me of, if I was eating the old diet, I think actually it would go really nice in a sandwich, like a cold beef sandwich, you know. But yeah, it's great just on its own, honestly. Just beef tongue, salted beef tongue, lovely. And it's very, very high in like zinc and stuff like that. So yeah, you get your libido and everything going when you eat beef tongue.
Yeah.
You know, those nutrients. Yeah, really, honestly. But yeah, I don't touch organs. Mostly beef.
Yeah.
I just got a love affair with fatty beef. I love ribeyes. I love tomahawks. I occasionally get sirloins, like strip loin or New York strip. And my other favorite things too, if you haven't tried these, oh man, beef short ribs in the slow cooker, like crock pot, incredible. They're incredible, especially if you can get fatty cuts. And oxtail, love it. Oxtail, it's just amazing, the flavors. And there's that you often get like the whole tail kind of thing, like cut up into pieces. So you have like one really large bit, medium, small, and then like some small pieces. Good luck eating all that. And if you do eat all that, you won't need to eat for like 24 hours, you know. And it's just amazing, the flavors that you get from that. Yeah,
that's awesome. I got to try some of that. I get in a rhythm and I just stick with it. So I don't know how. That's so funny because on YouTube, people will say, you tell me what you're eating or show me what you eat in a day. I'm like, it'll be the same thing every day. It's like ribeye, 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 ribeye. When I eat like I made a mistake a while ago. I did lion diet for 60 days and that was wonderful.
Right.
I got off of it because I was in Alaska filming Build for the documentary and we couldn't get enough meat. It was kind of a long story, but when I eat like I've recently been increasing my fat intake. In fact, I just did a video a couple days ago and I was kind of being a jerk about it, but I don't know. I thought it was funny, but I made a ribeye, a really fatty ribeye. I smoke it on the smoker outside, low and slow until it gets to like 120 degrees internal temperature. And then I bring it in, put it on a cast iron skillet in some.
I think I just watched that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was being a little obnoxious, but I do it with tallow and then some butter. And then I drank some of the.
Right.
I swear it was like, I imagine that would be like drinking like 25 espressos or something like that. I just get this energy boost when I've noticed it in the past too. And you said this before too. I've done the same thing. I think around day 70 on Carnivore, I pulled over my car once and I pulled my phone off to record myself because I was feeling euphoric. I was feeling amazing. So much so that I'm like, I got to share this with people. I don't even know what it was that particular day. It was just something, maybe I ate a fatty piece of meat or something. But anyways, when I eat, I've been increasing my fat. And when I do that, I feel so much better. It feels so good.
Maybe you're in high grade ketosis or something.
Yeah. Yep. I haven't tried the beef short ribs yet. The only other thing I haven't tried the tongue either. I gotta branch out a little bit. I switch between ribeyes and strip steaks with like a lot of butter to
Mhm.
try to get my fat up, or I'll get a bunch of beef fat and I'll cut it up, dice it up, put it in the air fryer or cast iron skillet, and then I'll eat that with my steak. Like every bite of
Yeah,
strip
nice.
steak, I'll
Nice.
put a piece of the fat. Oh, it's so good. Gets you up there. My friend, I don't know if you've seen Carnivore Kip. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
does some stuff. He's pretty cool. His I asked him, I did a video. I'm like, what's your favorite thing? And his favorite thing are these dino ribs. Have you ever had those?
I'm not
He
sure.
calls
You may call it something different to what we do. What
Yeah.
is that exactly?
He calls them dino ribs because they're huge. They're just beef ribs. They're big
Right,
beef
right.
ribs, and they're huge. They look like dinosaur bones, so he calls them dino ribs. But oh my goodness, he told me that's his favorite thing. I was hard to find around here. I found it, I don't know, like 2 months ago, and I made it up. That was one of the most delicious things I've had. Really fatty,
Right.
tender meat.
But it wasn't
You got
short
to
rib. Definitely wasn't short rib.
no bigger. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That was a good one. I got to try that one again now that I'm thinking. My mouth's watering now talking about all this
Yeah, I
stuff.
know. I'm gonna cook my. When we get off, I'm gonna start cooking. So.
Yeah, I did one tomahawk too, and that was really good. But my new thing now is I've been doing the slow smoking and then searing, and it's like this big process. So people are like, it tastes so good, but I'm like, I'm warning you, if you do this, you cannot turn back. You
Right.
can't.
Oh,
Before this, I'd throw a steak on the grill and I'd be eating in 15 minutes. Now I got this process, and now Dr. Chafee was on the live stream, and we showed his refrigerator. I don't know if you've seen that video. He did a short after his
don't think I have.
refrigerator. Oh my goodness, his
Oh, Chase.
refrigerator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen that. I have seen that.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Man, that'd be so awesome.
100% beef. There's nothing else in there but meat,
Yeah.
and it's all on racks. And he does this
Yeah.
aging thing, which I've never experimented or done that. And he tells me it's 100 times better. So now I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this, and I'm not gonna be able to turn
Yeah.
back. I'm gonna have to age the steak and smoke the steak. It's gonna be like a 3-hour process, but man,
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a few things that I've done as well that it's like you can't go back. I mean, I was eating more ground beef, but I know it's a little bit more money, but I just love proper steak. And I do a similar thing. I mean, the best steaks that I've done, what I've done is you buy it from the butcher and they cut it into a couple of pieces like logs. And then basically what I'll do is salt either side, wrap a cheesecloth around it and put it on a rack, right? Overnight or even 2 days is better. Just keep it in there for 2 days. Then the day you're going to eat it, take it out and just leave it on the side. I just like cover it with a bit of tinfoil, pop a hole in the top or something so it can breathe. And then come back, dab it, and then I just do it on a cast iron so I don't bring up the temperature or reverse sear it or anything. I just do it on cast iron. But because it's been out for so long, and it sort of continues to dry age a little bit, and the moisture comes out and it's just salted a little bit. And then I'll cook it. Just before I cook, one side I'll salt, and then as soon as it's done the way I like it, which is like rare to medium rare is the most I would cook a steak really these days. And then when it's cooked, I put molten salt on top because it's like those flakes that just instantly kind of dissolve. Yeah, that's the best way for me that I've cooked steaks anyway, like just a ribeye. Yeah, it's
wow.
delicious. I can't go back. And now I'm like, I do somewhat of that process in some way, shape or form. And if I come home and I want to eat a steak, but I haven't taken it out for long, it's like, oh man, like it's in the fridge, it's like moisture, it's not got the temperature.
Right.
I'm not going to throw that steak away. Like there's only one way to do it now for me, you know? So
Yeah,
yeah, I can relate.
no turning back. And then the other thing too is I mostly just eat at home now because even if I go to like a really nice restaurant, it's like they can't do the steaks like we know.
No,
It's not even being, I'm not even trying
so
to brag or
true.
anything. It's like you cook it so many times, they don't do it justice. Some of the steak places I went to, my wife took me to one for, I think it was her anniversary or something, really expensive one. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good steak. And it comes out, it's just like this. I'm like, I could just do
Yeah.
that at home. Like I'm expecting like a big, thick, nice steak or something for that price, but
I just don't get it. When you eat only meat, you need a lot. You do need a decent amount of fat and decent amount of protein. Like especially if it's your one meal a day, you put, oh, I can't wait. You go to a restaurant, it's like, I'm going to need two of them. And it's the
yeah,
price that would come to, it's just not worth it. I've honestly only eaten out when I went skiing for a week. That was it. I've
yeah,
cooked every single day for myself. So I went skiing for a week. It was 7 days total, I guess, that I couldn't eat at home. And there was only one time where they cooked it like it was great, it was perfect, you know, eggs and this steak. Every other time it was like, it's okay. And then one of the times I know for a fact that they cooked it in oils, because I had a bit of a reaction. I could taste it. You just taste it, which is really interesting. I'm going to make a video about this actually. Not long ago, I got my butcher. I just fancied sausages, and it's like, but I can't really eat sausages because there's other stuff in it, right? Grains and all this other stuff. So I said to my butcher, what's the minimum order if I would like just venison, like fatty venison or beef or lamb, whatever? You make it how you want. Just shove it in there. Lots of fat, protein, nothing else. I don't want any binders, any preservatives, no sugar, just the meat and salt, maybe. That's it. He was like, yeah, we can do that. Came home. I had 6 sausages the next day for breakfast because I fancied breakfast. I was kind of keen to eat these sausages, right? Tasted amazing. 2 hours later, my stomach was crippled. I can't work it out. I went back there and I didn't want to be rude because I really love people and I go to this farm all the time. One of them said, oh, how were those sausages? And I was like, I looked around and there was no one else in there. And so I was like, to be honest with you, I don't know what it was, but I really reacted to it. And they were like, that's weird. And I said, what was the skin like? Were they bleached or what? You know, he's like, no, we washed the skins in water. We just put all venison in there. He said, we managed to take a lot of fat off the shoulder. And so it was just venison, fat, no binders, no preservatives. I said, no sugar, no seed, like nothing. I have no clue why I reacted to that. I still can't work it out unless it went through a machine, like what they minced and it had traces of things. Because seriously, it's crazy how sensitive you get. And so I said to them, like, I've eaten nothing but meat for like over a year now. And maybe it's just the skin, or maybe it's something that there was a trace of something on. But I came home early from work. It's like, oh man, my stomach. It was kind of high up as well in my stomach. And I hadn't felt that. It was a familiar feeling, but at the same time, really strange because it's been over a year since I've felt anything like that.
Wow.
So, yeah, crazy, right? Go figure. I don't know what was going on with that. I honestly think that it must have been a trace of something because they're really genuine people. And they were really concerned. Right. The guy came around the corner, was like, wait, but I washed it in water and I didn't add any of this, any of that. And so they were I felt bad even like being honest to them.
Right.
You know? But
it's interesting. We do this thing at our house every year. I have this big meat grinder. A company sent me for my YouTube video to do a video on it years ago. And every year we have this big, sounds kind of weird, sausage party. Everyone comes over and they bring their own pork. And in the years past, we would put all sorts of spices in it. Everyone would do their own recipe and then we'd divvy them all up. It was really fun. But that's I'm like, cool. Well, on carnivore, I'm not doing that. But I'm like, I'm going to do what you just said. I'm going to make my own one. I'm going to be interested. Yeah. Now I'm kind of nervous. I'll give it a try and see.
I'm pretty sure you'll be fine. I mean, this last, so 2 hours went by and I was like, oh man, there's something in there. Straight away, I was like, there's something in there. Like they haven't done precisely what I asked for. Then I just came home and I'm like, I know there's something in it. And the funny thing is when I was eating it, it was like, I even said like, no, like this tastes too, do you know what I mean? Like it was rich. It was like herby almost. But the venison is grass-fed, so you can get that earthy taste from that as well. But I can't figure it out. I think you'll most likely be fine. I just wonder, especially if you've got your own, what do you call it, like a grinder, right? Grinder, you could probably run something through there and then just discard a small bit and hope that if there's any trace of anything, done, gone, or clean it. But you know, I'm just guessing that maybe they just ran my stuff through there and there was traces. I don't know, but it just goes to show, like Michaela Peterson, you know, she has just like an inkling of soy. She reacts to smoked. She had some sausages. So when I was making this video, I was like, that's crazy, because I was hoping she was going to tell the same story as I just told. But she was saying that she found out that they were smoked. And so she reacts to, how crazy is that? And she doesn't even understand why that might be. But she says if she's around a bonfire and it's in her hair and she goes to sleep, she wakes up, she can barely breathe. It's like, wow, she's like way more sensitive than I am. And I feel like I'm sensitive to everything.
Yeah.
So who knows? It's a mystery.
I've only had one issue like that in 6 months. And it was some Wagyu ground beef. I had a Wagyu steak. The Wagyu ground beef. Well, this was the crazy thing. I, like you, I had ground beef earlier. I'll have ground beef in like our beef butter bacon, we call them our power bowl. It's just beef butter bacon, eggs all in a bowl. But I rarely have it by itself. Anyways, I was in a hurry and I had this ground beef and I cooked it up and I had like a whole pound of it and that was all I ate. that Wagyu is really fatty. It
Yes.
messed me up so bad. Big stomach ache afterwards for a couple
It
hours.
was.
But it
It
was
wouldn't
just
have been the amount of fat. What it is, I think I know the answer. I feel, at least for me anyway, it's high in polyunsaturated fats. It's like pork. That's
ah,
why, right? Because they feed them They feed them a lot of corn and grains and stuff like that to fatten them up. They're higher in
oh,
polyunsaturated fats. I think that's why I've had a very slight reaction to Wagyu. It was incredible. This marble, it looked like a dream. I was like, whoa! I almost just took a chunk out of it raw. It just like butter. And I ate these
right.
2 sirloins and I had a mild reaction to it. And so I put it straight away down to polyunsaturated fats because they eat such a corn rich. And so basically, I eat some pork occasionally. I don't touch bacon. If I have too much pork fat, that can have a reaction. But if I have Iberica pork, it's better because they just fed exclusively acorns. But
Mm,
pork in general is higher in polyunsaturated fats because you got to think like these monogastric animals, or even like us, anything monogastric, they don't have those 4 chamber stomachs. They're not able to digest the cellulose. They're not able to convert the substrate, and their mass is made out of a different proportion of fats. So that's why like ruminant fats are so good in animals, because the fat is just very high in the right ratios of the right fats, and that's mostly saturated fat and cholesterol, and then it's just nutrient denser, in all other areas. Where the pork
right.
is kind of like, it's got great muscle tissue and it's got a lot of nutrients, a lot of the same, just varied slightly. But what's different is those polyunsaturated fat levels are high, and so you're technically going on to more of a plant-based fat, and so that's what I
Ooh.
think it is. And if you,
Yeah,
if
that
I,
makes sense.
the worst thing for me is if I put loads of pork into a slow cooker, because you can just like swallow it down because it's just so rendered, and it's almost like you need to let it cool down a bit. But if I, in the beginning of the diet, I had like a load of pork belly slices in the slow cooker, I was able to eat like 3 or 4 of these things, and then later I was like, whoa, felt like heavy and overwhelmed by the amount of fat, which I never had on carnivore. And so that's when I was like, pork can be a bit of an issue. Not like Michaela Peterson, she will be terrible the next day and like stay like that for a week. I just feel bad for like a few hours, and then I'm like, I don't really want to have pork for a while, or just have like mostly red meat and just like a bit of pork, because I do like pork, and every now and again it has to be like high quality. And Iberico I do better on for some reason because they're just fed acorns. I think
Mm,
I'm sure they're still high in polyunsaturated fats. I think they're healthier animals. Like pigs would
right.
just get to eat a ton of acorns rather than all the stuff that they force feed them. Perhaps I don't know, that they might not want to eat a percentage of the food that they're given. I think that you end up with a better product when it's just natural or Iberico. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I've only had one other weird issue. So I've been so fortunate, but I just hit 6 months carnivore. The first like 5.5 months, well, the first couple weeks are a little bit hard for everyone. But then when I'm in the
Mm-hmm.
flow, like after week 3 or so, just don't even think about it. Ribeye, ribeye, ribeye. I did 60 days of line where I only ate one meal a day. Felt wonderful. Never hungry. Didn't even have to think about it. But like 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's like a light switch went off. I think it was right around, I think I got down to my goal weight. I lost most of my fat. And so it makes sense, I think, what's happening, but I just got so hungry and could not eat enough food. And then like 2 or 3 of my other carnivore friends, YouTuber people that I talked to, one of them, I don't know if you've seen Ryan Murphy from Against the Grain. He's like a farmer that lost a bunch of weight. He's really cool. He emailed me like the day I was like, what is going on? And it happened to him on the same day where he's like,
All right.
I'm starving. I'm eating so much. I can't get enough food. So it's kind of, I've upped my fat since then over the last 3 weeks, and that seems to have helped. But I think it just kind of makes sense because before my body was burning I had a lot of extra
Yeah.
body fat. My body
You
was
had
burning
fat
that
there.
fat for fuel. It's gone now. So now it needs more. So I just got to eat more. So that's what I've been doing.
That's it. I would agree 100% on that. Yeah, that's what it is. You were somewhat nourished with your own fats, and they're
Yeah.
saturated. And yeah. So you were probably eating away at your own body. You're in ketosis. You're eating away at your fats. You're getting your protein needs and some other fats just to feel right. And then as you've hit optimal body composition, you're like healthy. It's kind of like, now I need to intake the fat that I'm not supplementing from myself, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
The,
So
the other
it's the
thing that
same as what you said.
Yeah, the other thing that made me realize it too was my daughter Emma, the vegan turned carnivore.
Mhm.
She's been doing carnivore with me. She did lion for a while too. She's been doing carnivore with me for a long
Wow.
time, but she has no body fat. She's really thin. And the whole time she was doing carnivore while she would out eat me on everything. She was just eating everything all the time. And it's like, well, it makes sense. She didn't have that
That's
body fat.
incredible.
So that's
Yeah,
another
yeah,
thing for people out there thinking of doing carnivore. That is a benefit. Look at the silver lining. When you're way overweight and you're starting carnivore, your body burns that fat. Once you're in that mode, it's super easy. It's just like you
mm,
have to
mm.
think and remind yourself to eat. Your body just burns through that energy, and it's a
Yeah,
nice thing. Don't
yeah.
even have
And
to
you, I
think
mean,
about it.
yeah, and you could pretty much like even fast for longer probably. So once you're adapted, if you still got fat on you, you could probably fast and get some real benefits from that. You know, not only are you going to lose the weight, but you should feel quite light, and you know, your cognitive ability seems to increase as well. Gets better. I feel
Yeah.
great when I fast. I don't know about you. I feel
Yeah.
really great when I fast. That's why I haven't eaten anything today. The last time I ate was like, well, nearly 24 hours ago, coming up.
Yes. Before doing carnivore, I did a 1 day water fast, I tried everything before carnivore, every single diet there was. But I did a 1 day water fast, a 3 day, and then a 5 day. And when I did that 5 day fast, this was a couple years ago, I felt amazing, almost like I feel on carnivore now, if I can describe that to
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, yeah,
But of course, I couldn't sustain it anymore and I had to eat something. I think there's something to that where when you're in carnivore, you feel like you're getting those benefits of fasting and feeling it. And then
yeah,
when I did lion diet for 60 days, I'd have one meal a day and then I'd fast for 23 hours. Felt
yeah,
so good.
yeah, yeah,
So good.
yeah.
Lots of
I think
benefits to that for
I think
sure.
what's happening there is that you are fasting, but just from most of the stuff that you were eating before. So like if you're coming from like a standard Western diet and then you fast, you don't why you feel so great is because not because you're not having steak, it's because you're not having all that other stuff. So they've done studies like if you someone with arthritis fasts, all their symptoms just go away and they get better. It's not because they're
Yep.
not eating. It's like I've got to eat something. So it's like, well, what is it that I'm eating that's causing the problem? Turns out anything but steak. That's why people cure their arthritis because it's the carbs, it's the oxalates, it's these egregious molecules and metabolites in plants. They don't exist in meat, and so you don't get that inflammation, you don't get that and like inflammatory response from what you're eating. You don't get those crystals in your in between joints accumulating, things like that. And so when you fast, your body then goes into autophagy, starts eating away at those crystals, gets rid of the inflammation, and it's like, wow, I feel really good. All you need to do at that point is just break your fast with fat and then have like eggs or fish or meat. Like red meat's the best, really. Yeah, that's what it is that you technically are fasting, but just from everything. But when you eat meat, you're still fasting from everything else, you know.
Right. Yep.
So,
Yeah.
technically I've fasted from just every plant and plant derivative for like over a year now. I haven't even had a tea or a coffee. In the beginning, I had some coffees for my first 30 days. It's funny because I never used to drink coffees and I introduced it as I went carnivore just to make it interesting because everybody else was doing it. But I've never really been dependent on coffee. I can wake up and I don't go, oh my God, I need my coffee. I'm just not one of those people, fortunately for me, I guess. Um, so yeah, I don't depend on stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a whole year. I've fasted on plants. I'm on
Right.
over a year fast from plants, and I continue to die that way. Really,
Yeah. So I don't even think I need to ask this, but you're just carnivore for the rest of your life now?
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I don't get craves. I don't care for that stuff. I don't want to find out specifically what was the problem, like in terms of could I eat a bit of fruit, could I eat a bit of this, a bit of that. I'm not really keen to find out because at the end of the day, I've heard too many things about berries. They might be natural when they're in season. Blackberries grow naturally around here, but if I eat those berries, well, first of all, if I enjoy them, well, they're gone in 3 weeks. And so then do I have to go through somewhat of the process again? Am I weaning off of some sugar again? And then
Right.
apart from anything else, there's fiber in blackberries. And that makes it worse when it's trying to kink out of my stomach. Like it just adds bulk to it. And it's actually not very comfortable for me, even with the bag. Can you believe, just because you feel the abdominal contractions of the fiber. Like when I was eating before with this bag, I couldn't wait to get out of the hospital and eat like actual like proper food because I'd eaten hospital food for a few days. Came out and I was eating all this stuff. I was like, man, this sucks. I really love my food, but I also hate it now because every time I eat, it's like 3 hours later, I feel all these abdominal movements, and then it comes out. And when I'm on carnivore, that doesn't happen because it's just like pretty much liquefied. It's like a thick liquid. I don't feel anything. My abdomen, I can, if I took a nap, you know, and it was long enough, it's like, oh wow, look, start work. I wouldn't have a clue. I'm at work and it starts working. I don't have a clue. I have to actually like fill the bag. Like, okay, you know, I'm good for now. You know, but maybe in an hour or so, I might need to go and empty. Right, that's how it works. I have to just go and empty and then carry on. Zip it all back up again. Go for another few hours and then maybe have to empty again. Then it's it. But with the old diet, it was quite this constant. I want to eat and I want to enjoy my food, but I'm really just some kind of addict, you know. And then I'm eating this stuff, and then I pay for it, and it's like, man, I can't really enjoy food anymore because what I'm eating is it's okay in the moment, but that was depressing in itself, you know. That didn't help. But since going carnivore like that, so even someone that's already been in my situation but hasn't got depression, your life can still improve. Just go carnivore, and all your food just it breaks down, so you don't feel it digest. You don't feel it going to the bag. It's just easy on your system. You're not getting this constant reminder of your situation and how your body is. It's like, can eat, can forget about it. It's all good. It's much better.
Right. Yeah. I had a friend that said to me about food. They were doing carnivore and they were doing really well, but they're like, I don't know if I can keep doing this because it's just not enjoyable. And then it made me think, and I'm like, I said to them, I'm like, well, should food actually, I know it has been my entire life, a source of enjoyment, but should food be enjoyable? Like, what else is enjoyable? Like, drugs are enjoyable. Should food be enjoyable like a drug? But then I got kind of torn on that topic too, because for me, it's like, I don't think food should be a source of enjoyment. Like, now I'm just eating for sustenance. But then on the flip side, I'm like, I am kind of a hypocrite because I really do enjoy a steak. Like, I love I get so fired up about a steak. So I guess maybe it is enjoyable. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing in my brain.
It's so funny, like you're saying, like when I was saying things that you were thinking, I've thought that so many times because I've had to say this over and over again to people. It's like, first of all, when you suffer, and some of you don't know you're suffering until you go carnivore, when you find the difference, you can now compare. And it's like, well, I enjoyed my food, right? But really, I was craving it all around the clock as well. And then it was kind of like I was inflamed, I was suffering, and I was thinking about the food all the time. And so it's kind of like I'm a slave to it. That kind of sucked. It was controlling me, right? Where I control the food now, though it's all natural as well. So that's kind of hypocritical in itself, right? Like I'm controlling the food as in I'm not eating all that other stuff. Yet my body tells me when I'm truly hungry. And so like I'm not eating for enjoyment. You know, I don't have a strange relationship with food. I have a natural relationship with food. I'm hungry. My body just told me I'm going to eat actual food. But as it turns out, I love what I eat now. So I was eating like some stuff the other day, and I was Lucy often laughs because sometimes I cook the steak and a bit of pork or whatever, and it's like I'm making funny noise. I'm like, oh, you know, like this. She looks at me like, what the hell? You know, how are you still enjoying it this much? I'm like, seriously, Luce, I think I actually enjoy food more than I ever have. Right. I don't know. I can't explain it, but this came in. This was like probably around the 6-month mark. It's like, I think I enjoy food more now. Like, I can't think of anything worse than ordering an Indian takeaway or a Chinese takeaway or going to McDonald's with all the fries and the buns and the seat. Like, that stuff I remember even then you can look back and reflect, and it's like, I remember getting excited about ordering a Chinese, enjoying like the first 5 minutes of it, and then I almost instantly regretted it. I could remember actually regretting how it felt after I'd eaten it. And you're all creased on the couch, and it's like, that just cost me 30 quid, you know, like $50 equivalent perhaps to feed me, Lucy and Sky. Why are we doing this to ourselves? You know, this is crazy. But now, so yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite in that I don't eat for joy. I eat to live, and I can truly live now because I have that capacity. Like, I'm free, I'm not inflamed, I'm genuinely happy. But guess what? On top of that, as a bonus, I actually now love my food more than ever. I look forward to my steak. As I start to get hungry, I can't wait to eat. But I think that's the true relationship we should have with food and the way it feels, because I'm pretty sure our ancestors would have been like, yes, you know, if they caught a large ruminant animal, I'm sure they'd be like, hell yeah, we're eating tonight, you know, or tomorrow, whatever. And I'm sure they absolutely loved it, because when you're giving your body these nutrients, it's like going, yes, 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 yes. I think that's a good thing. I don't think you're going to be like, oh, I'm eating to live. Oh, doesn't this suck? It's like, no,
Right.
like I'm pretty sure it would have been enjoyable, and it's only gotten better with our cooking methods, right? We can make these beautiful steaks, and they melt like butter, and they taste heavenly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's somewhat hypocritical, but at the same time, I think it's different. I think it's a transformation of joy. It's not the same kind of joy. It's not like, oh, I'm addicted. Ah, a relief.
Right.
It's kind of like, I'm not addicted. If someone told me I can't get to eat that steak today, it's like, it's a bit disappointing, but that's fine. I'm not getting the shakes. I'm not getting urges and cravings. I'm not going to start losing my temper or get
Yeah.
hangry. I don't get hangry anymore, you
Yeah.
know?
Right. It's like I'm excited and fired up for it, but it's for good reasons because I feel like that's what my body's saying. It's like, thank you, finally. That's what I need. That's what I love.
Yeah.
More of that. And there isn't that regret afterwards, like you said with the Chinese. I millions of I can't even count how many times I've done
Mm.
that same thing you said. Oh, let's go get some
Yeah.
Chinese food or some McDonald's or something. It's going to be great. And every single time it's a regret and your stomach
Yeah.
is hurting afterwards. You're like,
Yeah.
what did I do? And you feel it.
That's going to be
I've never
great
felt
for
that way
5 minutes.
yeah. Well,
Let's
the
enjoy
the
ourselves for
control
5 minutes
thing
and go
too.
broke.
Yeah. The control thing you said too. That's yet another benefit of carnivore that I never would have imagined, and that's kind of hard to sell people on, but the fact that
Mm.
I am in complete control of everything in my life now. So
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
control before was the food. What are we gonna eat? When are we gonna eat? We're going to someone's house. Oh, I gotta
Yeah.
make dinner and I gotta go through the cabinets and pull out 50 different ingredients to try to make dinner and what are we going to eat next, and now it's like
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
I'll eat and that'll be it. There's something very liberating about being in total
100%. Yeah, I was
control.
going to say the same thing. Yeah. You imagine you're on the road. It's like the amount of times, oh, can we go to a shop quick? Can we just go to a shop? Even
Yeah.
if it's like a fizzy, colourful drink, like that will sustain me. It's like, well, yeah, of course, because it's your cravings. It was Dr. Pradip Jamnades. He was saying like you can fast for 7 days, right, and your blood sugar will drop slightly, but it doesn't go below this threshold, right? So it's not like your body's like, quick, more sugar, more sugar. I actually genuinely need more sugar. That's just cravings for an addiction, which sugar is a substance. You know, I know some people don't like to phrase it as an addiction, but if you eat sugar like every day, you will become addicted to it. That it's just as simple
Hmm.
as that. Like, I'm not trying to put people down for being a sugar junkie, but that is what it is. So if in 2 days' time you haven't had carbs and you're like, oh, I can't do this, you're coming down from sugar. That's
Yeah.
what you're doing. You're weaning off of sugar, and it doesn't feel pleasant. It's the same as coming off a cigarette, same as coming off alcohol. It's the same with anything you do every day. Even coffee, people experience the same kind of miserable flu-like symptoms if they're having like 6 coffees a day, skimmed milk or something, and they're like, you can't have coffee, you can't have skimmed milk. You're going to feel pretty miserable. You might get through that first day all right. The second day comes, like, okay, I'm miserable, I'm grumpy, I'm in a mood, I want my coffee, I can't. But it's not like you needed the coffee for energy. You actually have energy. You have fat, you have whatever it is, you know what I mean? And so it's interesting. You can fast for 7 days and you're going to go crazy craving sugar if you eat carbs every day. Yet the sugar didn't change in your blood. It's
Right.
there.
Yeah.
So it just means you're addicted to that, to putting it in your system. You've gotten used to it and have programmed and trained your systems to want to accept frequent doses of this substance. And it's very, very deadly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's totally different. When we crave, it's not such craving. It's like your body's going, you know what? If you can eat, I wouldn't mind eating. I'm hungry. And so you
Yeah.
listen to it, and if you got some steak there, cool. In the wild, if we didn't have, we would go and hunt and hope to catch something. So yeah, I'm sure it would have been a right result to catch a large ruminant animal and probably celebrated and took it back, and the family probably made them feel like, yeah, like, well done. You've just
Yes.
provided for your family. We're good for a few days, and then you fast maybe if you can't catch anything, but it's not a problem, because you're not addicted to your food. You just have a species appropriate diet, which you eat when you can, when your body wants you to. But in this day and age, everybody's eating the opposite. And so our systems are just programmed completely differently. So no one knows what feeling humans like. I've said this so many times. I feel like a proper human for the first time in my life. And I'm 35 years
Yes.
old. How have I lived over 3 decades and I've only just started to feel like human?
Yep.
Crazy.
Dude, it's so funny when I'm hearing your words. I did a video, I don't know, day 70 or something, the same thing where I'm like, this is what it is. I just feel like a natural human. This is what a baby probably feels like before they start giving it
Yeah.
sugar and junk food. Babies are happy and they're naturally smiling. You wouldn't see a baby with depression and problem sleeping and arthritis and all of these issues
No,
because it's just natural. That's all it is.
exactly.
We're natural humans. So
Interesting fact as well, by the way. Like, obviously, we wean off of milk for a reason. You know, I've used it to gain a bit of weight for a surgery, but basically, when babies consume breast milk, they're in ketosis because
yes,
their
born
metabolism is
into it.
different. So yeah, isn't that interesting? So we were born into ketosis. We were even in ketosis with the carb content being lactose. Even when you craving milk and you're having a lot, you're actually in ketosis. You wean off of milk, we would have been in ketosis always, pretty much, unless you were like in an area where there's an abundance of fruit positioning around the equator where it's more available, and you come out of ketosis maybe for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, but then you're back in ketosis again. And so that's a huge thing. It's a huge contrast to be in ketosis or not. And most people, if they're not in ketosis, I'd argue you don't know what it's like to be human because you're not
Yes,
in ketosis. How can you
right.
be a real human if you're fueled on glucose the whole time, being controlled
Right.
by the highly processed foods, having cravings, and going up and down, up and down?
You know, the other thing about being in ketosis and being human, you mentioned the brain and how it functions so much better and more efficiently on ketosis, which I totally agree with. The other thing that I've recently learned is the heart. I never knew this. I have a low ejection fraction. I actually have a slight form of congestive heart failure, just enough to consider it congestive heart failure.
Oh
And
wow!
we had Dr. Ovadia, and I was talking to him about this and some other people. I've heard this from more and more people. I've had an irregular heartbeat my entire life, an arrhythmia. When I was in kindergarten and when I was in school, elementary school, I had to wear all these monitors every single year for like 40 years. I put these heart monitors on to check it. And for the first time, this happened about a month ago. My wife and I were watching TV. She had her head on my chest. She's like, "Your irregular heartbeat is gone." I'm like, what? I've literally had it my whole life and it's gone. And then
It's
I started
amazing.
thinking about it more. And I, with the low ejection fraction, when I would stand up before, I would get super dizzy. Like I would have to grab onto the table. We've been kind of like the Jeopardy thing. I used to do Jeopardy every day, and so I could notice the before and after. But we also have gone to church every Sunday, pretty much, missed a couple for years now. And at church, you get up and sing, you stand up, you sit down, you
Yeah,
stand up, you
yeah,
sit down. And when I used to do that for years, I would grab the pew in front of me because I would stand up, and there was several times where I almost fainted. It's just getting up and
Right,
down for some reason. That is all gone on carnivore. So there's something happening here.
right.
I've got a cardiologist appointment coming up to get some more tests done, like professional
Mm,
tests done. But I'd since done more research, and I've heard a lot of reports of that too. That just like your brain, your heart actually is much more efficient when in ketosis. And a lot
right,
of
right.
people have reported including Alex that I showed you the picture of, Alex Cannon. He had a heart arrhythmia too that he says is gone on carnivore as well. I've heard other people say that too. So it's kind of crazy when you start hearing all of these things. That's just scratching the surface with some of the other anecdotes I've heard from people. But
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The list goes on, these things. Saying that, I don't know whether this is carnivore or not, but because I gave up alcohol before I went carnivore, but I used to get heart palpitations, and it often was when I drank alcohol, but then I was drinking most days anyway. So I don't know whether it was the alcohol or the carbs, but I don't have an irregular heartbeat. I used to get palpitations, so just every now and again, certainly when I lie down at night. If I lay
yeah,
down at night, often like 10 minutes after laying down, I'll just go, and then you sort of, you take a different breath and it sort of forces you. I don't get that anymore. So I don't know whether that was the alcohol alone or but then again, it's all plant derivatives, isn't it? However you
right.
want to swing it, it's all plants.
Yeah. Wow. Well, hey, this has been amazing. Man, we're almost 2.5 hours. That just flew by. I really enjoyed
Wow,
talking
that's
to you.
crazy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were trying to wrap it up probably like an hour ago.
Oh, no. I'm fine. I could talk to you all day. This has been a
Yeah,
blast. We got to have some more conversations
sure,
anytime
man.
you want. Open
For
invite.
sure. Yeah, yeah. I'll
Thank
have
you
to
so much,
figure out how to
Lee.
get you on mine.
Yeah. Hey, I got some ideas for you on that. But
Nice.
yeah, thank you, Lee, and thank you everyone for watching. Check out Lee's YouTube channel, Kent Carnivore. I'll have the link in the description below. And yeah, have a great day. It was nice talking to you, Lee.
Cheers, guys. Thank you, mate.